Welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us once again. A lot of news today from the winter meetings. Let's get into the latest anyway. Taijuan Walker goes to the Philadelphia Phillies. 4 years, $72 million contract. The Mets lose one of their starting pitchers. They're going to have to fill out that 3 and 4 spot in that rotation still. Chris Bassett is still a free agent. The other news, of course, Mitch Haniger signs a 3-year, $43.5 million deal to go to the San Francisco Giants. That one's a little bit more unique that we'll get into in just a moment, but there is an opt-out after the second year. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Took a little while. That's why it took me a little bit longer to get live with you guys, but appreciate you guys for your patience. And as I mentioned, anytime there's any news out there, we'll try to get you that news as quickly as possible and go live immediately thereafter, especially when it comes to the winter meetings. But thank you guys for joining us. If you guys are new to the Upside Sports Network, drop us a like, hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. So first story, of course, Taijuan Walker slides perfectly into that number 3 spot in the rotation. Average annual value anyway of about $18 million. A little bit rich for my blood as far as what Taijuan Walker's contributed over the course of his career. Has had some injury issues up and down in performance, but last year, though, with the Mets, he was a little bit more consistent, etc., and that's what ultimately earns him the contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies, though, the interesting thing about them is they've accumulated now a couple of ex-Nationals, a couple of ex-Mets anyway, and things are just seems to be working out right now for the Philadelphia Phillies. They're going to the free agent well over and over and over again to improve their team. We'll see how high they're willing to go into luxury tax, but right now they seem very comfortable to solve their rotation issues by bringing in Taijuan Walker, stealing him from a division rival. Now, as far as what else do the Philadelphia Phillies need to do? Well, they still need to add to the rotation. They still need at least one more starter, I believe, a back-end starter. They don't need to spend another $10+ million on a starter. We're talking about low-end starters like Drew Smyly, Wade Miley, pitchers of that ilk that aren't going to cost them a whole bunch. And then, of course, the New York Mets, now that they don't have Taijuan Walker to bring in, they're going to have to go to the outside or go to the free agent market once again to try to bring in one of the other options out there. They're still invested in the Kodai Senga talks. They're still in there for Carlos Rodan. If they get Carlos Rodan, that's actually an upgrade over what Taijuan Walker brought, and we could actually see an even better rotation next year from the Mets should they be able to get Rodan. But the other move, of course, is that Mitch Haniger goes to the San Francisco Giants on a 3-year deal, $43.5 million. The interesting thing about this is that they had Jock Peterson agree to the qualifying offer, so that took up quite a chunk of money, $19+ million going to Jock Peterson on a 1-year deal. They're still heavily invested in the Aaron Judge sweepstakes. No news yet on that. I know a lot of you guys were wondering if we'd finally see an agreement. It's 7 o'clock out on the West Coast right now, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock on the East Coast. We still might see a conclusion to that saga in just a moment. There was an update anyway coming from Bob Nightingale in the last 30 minutes on Aaron Judge. We'll touch on that in just a moment. But for Mitch Haniger to go to the San Francisco Giants, they were said to be looking for for two outfielders in addition to bringing back Jock Peterson. Judge obviously is one of those outfielders that they're hoping to bring in. Now they bring in Mitch Haniger. The interesting part is how they're going to use them defensively. Jock Peterson, I think, is either going to be ticketed for the DH role, or maybe they're going to try him at first base like the Braves did a few years ago. He is able to handle that position, I believe. Now, could he handle it for 162 games? Absolutely not. I don't think yet. But if he works all offseason at it, maybe you see Jock Peterson have a position change. But I think he's going to be your DH next year that faces primarily right-handed pitching. He's probably going to get about 450 at-bats, while Haniger is going to get the majority of the playing time probably in left field if they are able to bring in Aaron Judge. Should they not sign Aaron Judge, this is a good safety net for them. He was the next best outfielder as far as a corner outfielder that they could have brought in. I wonder what this does as far as the Brendan Nimmo market. I don't see them going after Brendan Nimmo if they bring in Aaron Judge. I think they're going to roll with the outfielders that they have and see what they can do. But great signing. Welcome in, Trey Turner. Appreciate you for joining us. Different spelling than the actual Trey Turner for the Phillies, but all the same, welcome back, Bush Girl. If you guys are new to us, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. We got 15 of you guys in here already, and we've only been live for about 9 minutes. So thank you guys for jumping on the live with us as quick as you did. We only put out that video about, 5 minutes before that. So appreciate you guys being as prompt joining us. Ross Stripling will be paid handsomely now. Yeah, I think he will. Pitching is going to be paid very very well this year. We've seen DeGrom, Verlander. Now we see the Walker signing. The money that's going to starting pitchers this offseason is through the roof. And so if you're a starting pitcher this offseason, great on you for having your contract in this year. You're going to get paid a little bit more handsomely than you would have a year ago today. But the other thing for the San Francisco Giants, aside from the Aaron Judge sweepstakes, that they need to be paying attention to is what that rotation is going to look like, what they could do with their shortstop, third base, and first base. If they do move Jock over to the DH spot for the majority of his playing time, have him play left every now and again when Haniger needs a day off, or if they don't sign Judge, then they still have Jock Peterson out there in left field the majority of the time. But that's kind of the next step for the San Francisco Giants. Do you think the H signing? Not sure. Not sure what you're referring to there, Bush Girl. Do I think Haniger will play? Yes. I was actually hoping he would go to the Texas Rangers. I was really hoping it as a Rangers fan. I think he's got a lot of potential in that bat. Even though he's 32 years old and coming off of an injury-plagued season, when he's right, he's an impact bat, probably a number anywhere between a 2 to a 6 hole hitter in any good lineup out there. Tells you the weapon that the Giants have now added. And this is also a great thing because they're trying to convince Aaron Judge to come to San Francisco. They're not just going to stop and say, all right, Aaron Judge, we're going to give you $40+ million a year to come to San Francisco, and then we're going to stop spending. No, they've already went out and added Mitch Haniger now. They're said to be interested in bringing in Kenley Jansen for the back end of that bullpen. Why? I'm not entirely sure because they still have Doval, one of the up-and-coming young closers in the game. He was dominant last year, so I don't really understand their interest in Kenley Jansen other than maybe moving Doval down to the eighth inning role or Jansen, but they are trying to strengthen that team overall. The one bit of news anyway out of Bob Nightingale that we mentioned before in the previous video anyway is that Aaron Judge seems to be very close to coming to a decision. Pretty much the entire Major League Baseball world is pausing right now, hoping we get an announcement from Aaron Judge's camp that he's going to go one direction or the other. It seems to be a two-horse race right now, Yankees and Giants. I would have told you up until probably last night that the Yankees probably had a slight, and I mean a slight edge over the Giants as far as being able to sign him. That flipped yesterday. We finally and then of course this morning, we're finally seeing the narrative change a little bit to where, hey, Aaron Judge wasn't happy with Brian Cashman at the beginning of the year for releasing the contract details of their extension offer. He wasn't, he wasn't of course happy through their arbitration, but decided to go ahead and squash it and let bygones be bygones at arbitration. And then, of course, we get all the, hometown, discount kind of conversation. Should he be really give the Yankees a discount when his favorite team when he was a kid was the Giants? It kind of takes away the hometown discount argument. I think it's going to be very even between the two teams. I think the Giants are going to have a better offer on the table. I know he's got a lot of friends on that Yankees team. He's very comfortable there as far as with Aaron Boone, and he's enjoyed a great amount of success there. He's 31 years old. We saw the Time article come out today that said that in 10 years' time he pictured himself getting married and playing for the San Francisco Giants. Well, we're just about to that ending of that 10 years, and it sounds like he's at least got the marriage taken care of. Now he wants to get that second piece done and get the San Francisco Giants. So we're starting to see that narrative change around Aaron Judge, as opposed to going back for the legacy, going out into Monument Park, and all those kinds of things. We're starting to see a lot more reasons for him to go to the San Francisco Giants, other than just money, which is what it would have been, say, a month ago now when the offseason started. But we're starting to see a lot of things start to come out. Carlos Baerga, the guy who posted about Justin Verlander the night before, posted that Correa might sign with the San Francisco Giants. I think that's a very real possibility if Judge goes back to New York. If he goes to the San Francisco Giants, I think there'll be a richer offer on the board anyway from the Chicago Cubs. I didn't think that would be the case, say, 3 or 4 days ago. But the Cubs seem to be very interested in bringing in not just one big addition, but two. I would argue that they need to bring in a starting pitcher, not another bat. That starting staff does not look very good, but we'll see how things go. But welcome in, everybody. Welcome back, Jose. Welcome in, JG. Welcome in, Sports 70. Can you talk about the Jays? Well, the Jays missed out on Cody Bellinger. He decided to go to the Chicago Cubs on a one-year, $17.5 million deal. It sounds like that there was multiple offers of multiple years on the table for Cody Bellinger. Maybe the Jays were one of the teams that had a multi-year offer on the table for Cody Bellinger, and maybe that's the reason why it didn't end up as a Toronto Blue Jay. But I just don't think his career is ultimately going to turn around. So if you're a Blue Jays fan, I wouldn't worry too much about losing Cody Bellinger. That just means you can spend, more money on, say a guy like Brendan Nimmo, or maybe you can go after Andrew Benintendi. Another left-handed hitter is basically what they're looking for right now, a number 5 starter and some bullpen help. So, if you're wondering your update on the Jays, there you go. But we got about 30 of you guys in here now, jumping up here in the last 5 minutes, doubling our viewership. Really appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button. Let's see how many people we can get in here on this live. We'll probably be live with you guys for the majority of the rest of the evening anyway, just in case some of these big stories finally start to break. Usually in the evening is when we start to see some of these dominoes begin to fall. And we're on the second day of the winter meetings. Teams are getting very comfortable. The conversations are starting to progress a little bit more to advanced talks, that kind of a thing. Not just exploratory talks anymore. So we could start to see some trade news as well. But let's check in on Twitter just to see if any news is broken since we've joined you guys here live. Phillies bringing in a left-handed reliever, Matt Strahm. Just before the winter meetings, the Boston Red Sox media was saying Strahm and Eovaldi were very close to signing. Of course, it sounds like Strahm, the reliever anyway, looks like he's going to be going to Philadelphia. Matt Gelb with the information along with Ken Rosenthal. Good spot there, Mark. Appreciate you for the heads-up news there. John Heyman trying to, fix the situation he caused earlier. I wonder if he takes a little bit more pause in any more stories he reports from the winter meetings. I understand it's part of his job, but that was a big blunder for John Heyman earlier today. Seeing if there's any other news. Remember, Andrew Heaney did sign with the Texas Rangers. Gives them a good number 4 starter in their rotation. And if he performs like he did last year, has the upside of being a number 2 in that rotation behind Jacob deGrom. We also saw Josh Bell, the last really good first base option on the free agent market, sign with the Cleveland Guardians as well. 2-year deal, $33.5 million. We told you guys a couple of nights ago anyway that Josh Bell is a very attainable target for the Guardians. I thought they should have gone for him. The other one we thought they should go for was the Sean Murphy, the catcher from the Oakland A's. It's going to cost them a pretty penny, but maybe they can give up one of their younger pitchers, etc., to be able to get that type of a deal done. No, that's not his brother. Yeah, I cut it all off. Not too bad. The razor actually broke on me when I was cutting it anyway, and that's why it took me so long to get back on the air, but appreciate you guys joining us. Had to fix that razor since basically the blade broke on it. That was fun. But appreciate you guys joining us. If you're just joining us for the first time, we cover Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NHL and the NFL. Make sure you drop us a like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. We've gained a few more subscribers today. Let's see how high we can get it by the end of the winter meetings. See if we can cross the 1,100 mark. Looks like the Red Sox, along with several other teams, offered Andrew Heaney a guarantee north of $30 million, but he took it because of the offset language in the contract, because of the opt-out after the first year. Thank you, Ramon. Appreciate that. Again, the Red Sox missing out on their top targets. How many times are we going to say that this offseason? We've already said it now 3 times this offseason. Once with Jose Abreu, once with Zach Eflin, and now with Andrew Heaney. Yikes. Telling you, the Red Sox are going to finish dead last in that division if they don't get somebody in there. The MLB draft lottery took place. My Rangers moved up a couple of spots. Twins moved up a couple of spots. My 2 favorite teams when I was a kid. The only team that didn't, of course, were the Braves. They were not in the draft lottery. Top overall pick goes to the Pittsburgh Pirates, while the Nationals get the number 2 pick. I do think we're going to get some breaking news. Thank you, Bryce. Doing pretty well, doing pretty well. Feels a lot cooler anyway. Even in Texas in the winter, it's still not exactly, cool all the time. I think we're going to have a warmer day tomorrow from what I saw. Welcome in 1975. Appreciate you for joining us. Carlos Correa. As far as the news on him, the Chicago Cubs met with him, I believe, yesterday. His market seems to be gaining some steam, especially with the possibility of Aaron Judge going to San Francisco. I think San Francisco is not going to be out of the shortstop market, even if they bring him in, whereas that could add another suitor in the New York Yankees anyway if they lose Aaron Judge. So I think Correa is going to wait until the Judge signing, and then we could see something on him move tomorrow. What do you think about the Taijuan Walker signing and the payment of $4 for $72? It is a little bit rich. I would have liked to have seen, maybe a 3-year contract for Taijuan Walker, but starting pitching is a little bit rich. So you're going to have to pay the price of poker this year. Andrew Heaney getting 2 years, $25 million with the incentives that could bring the deal to $37 million. Starting pitching is expensive right now, and a lot of teams are in need of it. That's why the prices right now are not coming down. Maybe after we see Rodan and Senga sign, which Senga, by the way, is going to sign for a lengthy deal, well over $20 million, it sounds like, and probably in the neighborhood of a 5 or 6 year commitment. So that contract for a pitcher who's never pitched in Major League Baseball is going to be over $100 million. Welcome back, Willard. Appreciate you for joining us again. Is Houston going to sign anybody else besides the people they signed, or is Jim Crane going to become the next Jerry Jones of baseball? Well, we saw the news from Jeff Passan before that basically Jim Crane's envisioning himself as the next Jerry Jones. What that means essentially is that he's going to operate as the team's general manager and thinks he can do better than what he had as a GM in James Click. I can't argue with him so far. He's done a good job bringing in Jose Abreu, but I wonder in the long run, is this going to start faltering a little bit? I wonder if he turns it over to guys who actually know the game of baseball. Jeff Bagwell is supposedly shepherding him through the process, and I'm sure he's got some executives around him that can help him, but they really need a baseball guy at the top. I wonder if this might be an out-of-nowhere hire in a guy like Jeff Bagwell to take over as the GM, since he does have that relationship now with Jim Crane. So hopefully that answers your question, Willard. If you guys have any questions about baseball, football, basketball, hockey, free agents, whatever the case may be, terms of a deal, whatever, let us know in the comment section. I try to answer any and all questions that you guys send us. Really appreciate the support. Yeah, if you're Rodan just going to the Mets anyway, that would be a crazy good rotation right off the top with Scherzer, Verlander, and then Rodan. That's 3 fantastic starters. Even if you get, like a middling number 4 starter with Carrasco there, that rotation would be one of the top 5, top 10 for sure, maybe a top 55, or top 5 anyway. Thank you, Bush, for saying that there. We do have over 55 people in our chat right now. Make sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe. I mean, I know not all of you guys are hitting that subscribe button, so make sure you do. It really does matter to us. It really does help us out. Thank you, guys. Welcome back, Robert. I'm getting annoyed with Judge not signing yet. Let's decide between the Yanks or Giants. I think it's going to be the Giants. It'll be here all on the stream. Yes, it will. I think it'll happen today. I think we'll at least get the details of the contract today. I don't think he'll actually put pen to paper and do the press conference till tomorrow, but I think we'll get the details of what the contract will ultimately look like. Thank you for the compliment, though, Robert. Appreciate that. What do you think of Jason Robertson? I think he's got a real shot to win the MVP this year for the Dallas Stars. MLB is in trouble. Huge contracts means higher ticket prices during inflationary times. Absolutely not. I think Major League Baseball is going to see income like they have never seen. I mean, they just sold their interest in a company for $900 million. Their TV rights have never been higher. Their regional network rates have never been higher. And yet they're still negotiating to take over those local networks and take all of that profit for themselves and then get the ad revenue for the commercials that are run during their games. That might be the next thing we see as far as the regional sports network going by the wayside and seeing something like NFL Plus taking over all NFL games. We might see something similar with baseball. Baseball is going to be rolling in dough for decades. Mark my words. But appreciate you guys joining us. What are the Padres? What is going on with the Padres? Anything you're hearing? Love the show. Well, it sounds like they're trying to do something big and splashy. We've said already that they were interested in bringing in Trey Turner. They had the high offer out there for him at $342 million. I wonder at the length of the contract, though. Nobody really had that. I wonder if it was around 10 years. If it was, that's around about the value I thought he would get at $33 to $34 million annually. If it was over a 13-year AAV, that might have made the decision very easy for him to decline. Can you imagine Judge, Correa, both in San Francisco? That would be insane. Yes, I can. I think that's actually a realistic possibility. Happy to see Haniger leave the AL West. He's an Astros killer. He's a Rangers killer, too. So if he's not going to be on the Rangers, I'm glad he's in the opposite league anyway. Do you think the Cubs offer Dansby or Xander a big contract if Correa goes somewhere else? Absolutely. I think they'll have the high dollar figure on the table for Dansby Swanson. I'm not sure if they will for Bogarts because I think the Dodgers will still end up with Bogarts. What is going on with Justin Turner? Welcome in, Alberto. Appreciate you for joining us. I know we got a lot of new people in our chat right now. Make sure you say hello and hit that subscribe and like button. It really does help us out. But what's going on with Justin Turner? Well, the Marlins are said to have interest. The Dodgers, of course, opted to decline his club option anyway. I do expect him to come back on probably a 1 or 2 year contract since he really does seem to enjoy playing there and probably finish out his career as an LA Dodger. Bellinger does go to the Cubs. I don't think that's a great signing for them. I think he's not going to be able to return to the MVP form that he once had. A 1 year commitment, though, if he does get back some of that production, then they might have something going forward. But I just don't see it happening. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but for 3 straight years now, we've seen below average production at the plate. Padres are going to make a big trade. I think there's an outside chance of it. If you guys have been paying any attention to me at all, I told you guys at the probably around the trade deadline after the PED suspension for Fernando Tatis Jr. that if you got AJ Preller alone and talked to him about a trade possibility for Fernando Tatis, then maybe we could see something like that happen because of how disappointed he was at that time with that suspension after investing so much in that team to make a World Series run. 2 or 3 days after the deadline, just an absolute gut punch to the organization. Maybe we'll see something different. Preller seems to have at least let cooler heads prevail, but I still think if you get Preller alone, you might be able to convince him to part with Fernando Tatis Jr. They'd have a core of Machado and Soto. They could go out there and still spend on a shortstop like Bogarts, and then of course they'd have all the assets that they gave away in the Soto deal brought back in a Fernando Tatis Jr. deal. But of course, they have other trade possibilities than that. Do you think the former judge of Harris County? I don't understand your question. Great deal for Philly getting Trey Turner. I don't know about Walker, though. Yeah, Philly was a great deal for getting Trey Turner. Well underneath the AAV, I thought. A little higher, though, on Walker. But again, you're going to have to pay for pitching this year. Strom to Phillies, 2-year contract. Reliever, you don't really want to go too long of a deal. I don't like reliever contracts that go into 3- and 4-year deals, especially if they're not an elite type of a pitcher. And for Matt Strom, not exactly considered an elite pitcher as far as a bullpen arm. But again, Phillies need to add to that back end, and that's a nice piece there. Bryce, is he any good? Bryce Harp? Oh, Matt Strom. Okay, I see what you're talking about, Robert. You're asking if Matt Strom is any good. Okay. Mariners are in on Brian Reynolds. Thoughts? Welcome in, Funky Monkey. Appreciate you for joining us. Mariners are indeed looking for one more outfielder. I think they're going to end up with a Michael Conforto type, though. I just don't think they're going to be able to pay the freight of a guy like Brandon Nimmo. I think they're going to try to go about it a different way, especially if they bring in Kodai Senga, who they're still in the running for, by the way. That would be their fifth starter there. They'd have a couple of starters that they could trade away. And there's a lot of opportunities for the Mariners. They do like to have Trader Jerry make a lot of moves, so kind of keep your eyes open there. So Brian Reynolds, maybe they go that route, but I just don't think they're going to go the Nimmo route. I'll put it that way. I'll pull up the details for you guys on Strom, since you guys are curious. Anything on Thompson from the Dodgers? You mean Trace Thompson? No. Thank you for subscribing, Funky Monkey. Appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thoughts on the Yankees, on what they will do except for Judge? He's been in my head all day. Well, if they lose Aaron Judge, I think they try to bring in one of the top shortstops out there as kind of a stopgap option, to try to fill the seats in Yankee Stadium, fill in for Aaron Judge. I mean, Carlos Correa is an all-star player. I mean, he's an aircraft carrier type player. They then would be able to trade Volpe for other pieces, but they're not going to be a better team without Aaron Judge. Just mark my words. They will finish worse than what they did this year. They still have to improve that starting rotation. They're supposedly have been in there for Verlander at points. They were in there for DeGrom at points. They were in there for Rodan as well. Taillon is their own free agent. I still think they need to add at least 2 starters if you're a Yankees fan. So kind of keep that in mind. As far as Matt Strom, in case you guys were wondering, a .3 WAR last year. 343 ERA, 4-4 record, 50 games, had 4 saves, only pitched in 44 2/3 innings, 52 strikeouts, and a whip of 1.23. His career numbers, just kind of pulling those up for you guys. He spent time with the Kansas City Royals, San Diego Padres for about 4 or 5 years anyway. 4 years. And then Boston last year had an 8 ERA in 6 games in 21. Had a 2.6 ERA in 2020. Only pitched in 19 games that year. As relievers go, they're always mercurial. 1 year they're great, 1 year not so much. Just to kind of go through his numbers, a 1.23 ERA with Kansas City in his first year, a 5.45 ERA the next, then it drops back down 2.05, back up to 4.7, back down to 2.6, back up to 8.1, back down to 3.83. So I don't know if this is a great signing. Maybe he's due for a bad year, but Phillies need to make some changes at that bullpen to see if they can improve. This is one piece to hopefully help address that. Back in 96. Do you think Philly signs another starter? I think they will. I do think Crane signing Montero for a 3-year deal was kind of rich. Yes, it was. But again, he's proven he's been worth it when he's right. But again, another reliever who's when he's right is excellent. When he's not so much. Cubs looking at anything other than outfielders, shortstops. I think they should be focusing more on starting pitching. They're supposedly in there for Senga and to a certain extent for Rodan, but I think Senga's their primary target on the pitching side. Maybe we'll see a Senga addition there. Thank you, Alberto. Appreciate it. Would the Mets consider... Thank you for subscribing, Sports 70. Appreciate that. Would the Mets consider Chapman as a much-needed lefty out of the pen? I don't see why not. I mean, they have 6 free agents out of that bullpen. They've only re-signed one of them. Adam Ottavino, I ultimately expect to end up there as well on a 1 or 2 year deal. Bringing in Chapman, though, I'm not sure what type of performance you're going to be able to get out of him. I mean, he wasn't exactly great last year. Locker room issues. Aaron Boone literally sent him home and didn't have him perform in the postseason at all. Tells you all you need to know about where Aroldis Chapman is at in his career. Now, could he help you out of that bullpen? Sure, but is it worth bringing him in and upsetting the apple cart, if you don't mind that turn of phrase anyway, on a team that won 100 games last year. I think there are other ways you could improve that bullpen rather than Aroldis Chapman. I think he's going to be looking for a big payday as he's a little bit older now. I think the contract will ultimately end up looking something like a 5 or a 6 year base salary with incentives that could take the deal up into the $18-19 million range if he ends up as a closer wherever he signs. But Aroldis Chapman's looking for that type of a contract, and I'm not sure that he's the right piece for the Mets. I think somebody who's looking for, who's a little bit desperate at the back end of the bullpen, willing to take a chance on Aroldis Chapman. For instance, the Rangers need help back there, but I don't like him for the Rangers. But teams that need help at the back end of the bullpen should consider Aroldis Chapman if you need a late inning reliever. Who out of the remaining free agents do you think has the hottest shot of joining a small market team? Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo. I think he absolutely should be joining a small market team. That way the pressure is completely off of him. The strikeout rate will fall, mark my words. It'll probably drop in the neighborhood to 35, 38%, hopefully. And then we're talking about a much better player. Joey Gallo's not going to have the issues of the shift next year as well, so we might see some real improvement out of him. And if he gets that power back, or if he gets to making a lot more contact, then we're talking about more home runs, much higher overall average. I think it'd work wonders for him to go to a small market team. Where could that be? Anywhere that needs an outfielder. Cincinnati Reds make good sense for him because they're not going to be competing. Maybe if he gets his bat right, he can go to a contender at the deadline on a 1-year deal and then rebuild his value, of course, this year. Go to free agency next year with a much better platform year. I think that would be the perfect thing for Joey Gallo. But out of the small market teams, I think he's the best free agent out there for you guys to sign if you're looking in that area of free agency. What do you think the Mariners are going to do? I think they're going to add probably one more starter, some bullpen help, possibly a DH, an outfielder. That's kind of your to-do list if you're a Mariners fan. Who are the teams still in for Senga? Well, the Rangers were in it with before they signed Andrew Heaney. I'm not sure if they still are. The Cubs are in. The Mets are in. The Giants are in. The Blue Jays are in. There's like 8 or 9 teams supposedly in the area, or in the market anyway for him. But we'll see where he ultimately ends up. What do I think of the signing for Heaney for the Rangers? Love it. The one issue I do have with it is that he only pitched 72 innings. Maybe they view Jake Odorizzi as the one guy in that rotation to eat some of those innings if one of those starters does go down and falter. They do have probably about 8 or 9 starters right now on their roster that they can use at the major league level or AAA that could come up and eat innings should DeGrom get injured, should Heaney get injured, or whatever the case may be. Gray go down to the blister issues over and over again. But they do have a lot of health questions in that starting rotation, but they've got a whole lot more depth than they have had in at least the last 6-7 years. Remember when the Dodgers were great, they had the great depth out there with that starting staff. That depth isn't exactly there anymore, and they're a team that needs to add some depth, whereas the Rangers have a plethora of it, but again, health issues are part of that depth. So kind of keep your eyes peeled if they're still going to be in the market for a guy like Senga. Joey Gallo to the Padres, small market. I wouldn't call San Diego necessarily a small market, especially with the way they've been spending money. I think they're going to spend money on a big name free agent or make a big trade out there. There's some real chances out there for you guys. What about Chapman joining the Astros? Possibly. I don't like it, but they had the league's best bullpen back there. Again, do you really want to upset the apple cart? Sorry to keep saying that kind of phrase, but I just don't like Chapman going anywhere where you're pretty much set in the bullpen, where you're looking for improvement, desperate for some late inning relief. For instance, like the Dodgers kind of had some turnover in that bullpen last year. Phillips was great, and Vesia, but outside of that, they struggled to find the right combination. Kimbrel didn't work as the closer. Maybe they give Aroldis Chapman a good deal like that. They got to trust their culture, though, to bring him in. Maybe the Giants, now that they're trying to build around Judge, maybe they bring him in to try to help in the 8th inning role in front of Doval. But those are some places to kind of keep an eye out for Aroldis Chapman. I'm more interested in bringing in Zach Britton. So if I'm a Ranger fan, I'd give him like a $4 to $6 million guarantee, and then some incentives if he turns out to be the closer. Give him a games finished bonus. Say like if he finishes, with 60 games finished and 40 saves, something like that. The total value of the contract could get well north of that, probably in the neighborhood of say, $12 to $15 million. That'd be a good way to solve the bullpen for the Rangers on the cheap, at least in free agency anyway. Looks like we might have a tweet coming from Jeff Passan I just saw come across. It's the Strom deal, 2 years, $15 million. That's from earlier anyway. Reason I said that because every time the Houston signs a player who has trouble with other teams, they become good again. To a certain degree, Willard, I'll agree with you there. To a certain degree, not every time does it work out. I mean, Will Smith had his didn't exactly set the world on fire anyway last year for the Astros, of course, with the trade of Jake Odorizzi. We've seen other pieces like Ozuna have a resurgent finish to their career, and now they're in international ball because nobody else is willing to touch him because of the off-the-field issues. There are other cases, I can't think of them off the top of my head, that other players that have gone to Houston aren't exactly perfect fits, but they have found great success with the Michael Brantleys of the world, with hopefully the Jose Abreu's of the world. Vasquez, the addition there could have been a little bit better last year if they had given him more playing time. You don't think he'll join because of the home run Altuve, or what Altuve did to him? Maybe. I mean, he is an emotional guy. Ken Giles, yeah, I remember him. Cubs in the market for Jameson Taillon. I've heard that as well. The Mets supposedly were trying to put a full court press on for Jameson Taillon before the winter meetings, have supposedly taken a step back because his price got a little bit too high. The Mets have been sticking to their price for whatever player they have interest in. A little bit interesting, especially considering that Steve Cohen is supposed to be willing to spend whatever it ends up taking to get that team to be able to win, is basically making them work and stick to a specific budget for every single player. I wonder if that's Billy Epler's decision or Steve Cohen's, but we were told when Steve Cohen took over, price was not going to be an issue. So I wonder if there's a change coming as far as the narrative with the Mets. I mean, they're close to $300 million already. They're well into that, Steve Cohen, nickname tax anyway, and they're still going to have to address Brendan Nimmo. They're still going to have to address another starter or two. They're still going to have to address the bullpen, third base, and DH. How high into the tax is he willing to go? You're already looking right now, I believe, at a $270 million tax bill. Payroll could exceed up to $330 million when it's all said and done by the end of free agency, maybe even higher. And I wonder how high Steve Cohen is willing to go. Sorry to change the subject, but briefly, can you pinpoint what makes Julio Rodriguez special? Bat speed, Mariners fan, and love watching him, but I don't know how to break it down myself. Good question. What makes him so special? For me, he brings a lot to the game, much like Fernando Tatis Jr. does for the Padres. Just has an electric bat. The bat speed there plays. But just the energy at which he plays with the reckless abandon. Remember a young Bryce Harper crashing into the walls, had injury issues as a result of that. And, they were ultimately able to solve some of those problems in Washington. But again, Julio Rodriguez is going to be a dynamic player for the Mariners. They signed him to a fantastic extension, by the way. So you're going to be able to keep him around and enjoy his entire career. Unlike Ken Griffey Jr., who ultimately ended his career playing with other teams, something you'd really have liked to have seen Ken Griffey Jr. just stay with the Mariners his entire career. But he wanted to play where his dad played and join the Cincinnati Reds. And here we are. Appreciate you guys joining us. Got 60 of you guys in here right now. If you want to say hello, make sure you join us here in the chat. Hit that subscribe button. Most importantly, hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. Make sure you hit that like button as well. Let me just update our Twitter feed here and just see if anything else is happening. Everybody's still talking about the Strom deal. Now, we did mention that the MLB draft lottery happened today, the first ever draft lottery. Two teams did actually move up in the draft, the Texas Rangers and the Minnesota Twins. They moved up into the top four. Meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Pirates get the number 1 selection. The number 2 goes to the Washington Nationals. As far as the draft, it's going to happen in the summer, so there's still plenty of time until we get there. But as far as the draft, there's 3 top prospects right now in consideration for that top overall pick. Dylan Cruz is pretty much considered the top overall player, but there is some talent out there to kind of keep an eye out for. But that draft should be fun to watch in the summer. In case you guys are just joining us, Taijuan Walker joins the Philadelphia Phillies on a 4-year, $72 million contract. No opt-outs or options at the end of it. Just a straight 4 years at $72 million. And then, of course, the Mitch Haniger deal, 3 years, $43.5 million with an opt-out after the second year. Because they had it from the starting, performing, he was dominant with the Yankees, but I believe get him from crazy Yankees drama to a family, Cuban multicultural family working. I don't know. I just think that you don't want to bring that kind of a risk to your bullpen, Willard. I just don't think you want to risk it. Did you hear the Astros and Cardinals have both made 5 years offers to Contreras? I was reading that earlier. Interesting. I did hear that the favorites right now for Wilson Contreras are the St. Louis Cardinals. I think he'll ultimately end up signing there. I mean, when the Cardinals view you as their top priority, that's when they usually go after that player. And I thought they'd be better off with a guy like Sean Murphy, but it seems like they don't want to go the trade route for him. So I guess Wilson Contreras, they may think that they could solve the issues for him behind the plate. We'll see which place he ends up signing. Jim Crane again doing the negotiating for the Houston Astros, but maybe the Astros are the team that ultimately trades for Sean Murphy or Danny Jansen or signs Christian Vasquez. Jim Crane apparently has already touched base back again with Christian Vasquez about their catching position. Nimmo goes where? I think it's still too early to tell. It's going to depend a lot on what happens with Judge and then the fallout of the shortstop market. So we'll see where those shortstops end up. Whoever has the most money left, I think Nimmo will ultimately sign. Who is your number one go-to National Baseball insider and why? Ooh, that's a good question. 10 years ago, it would have been Ken Rosenthal. That is no longer the case. Joel Sherman was there for a time. John Heyman was there for a time. Because I'm a Rangers fan, the beat reporters for the Rangers, I like Evan Grant. But as far as national guys, I still like Joel Sherman quite a bit. He seems very intelligent, has a lot of accurate sources. Sometimes his opinions irk me just a little bit, but his information is rock solid. Nightingale's up there as well, but I don't really rely on him for breaking news or as a go-to insider to explain a transaction. For me, I guess I'd still go Joel Sherman. Heyman and Rosenthal probably in that 2 to 5 mix, but I guess I'd lean Joel Sherman. Cruz is amazing. I like the lottery. Makes it interesting. Yeah, there was a lot of intrigue in there. The one thing I didn't like about the lottery is that the Major League MLB Network, anyway, they cut away after they announced picks all the way up to number 3, and then went back to the panel, just to discuss, how important it is to build your team through the draft and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, you can see the guys ready with the cue card for who to announce the number 2 pick. I think that was a little muddy. They should clean that up going forward. But overall, I like the lottery. Looks good. Hopefully, it'll help solve some of the issues as far as parity. Together, having each other, unlike New York, where they didn't have each other's back. Well, again, I wouldn't worry too much about the chemistry in New York. I think that's more of an Aroldis Chapman issue. The chemistry in New York seemed to be just fine, especially considering Anthony Rizzo held that team together when they were struggling through the entire second half, and yet they still made it all the way to the ALCS. Sure, they were swept, but that's mainly because they didn't have enough starting pitching, and their bullpen had a lot of injury issues and wasn't nearly as good as they thought they had in the beginning of the season. Britton going down due to injury, Chapman not having as good of a year, and other injuries throughout the year as well. As a Rangers fan, who's your favorite color commentator nationally for baseball? Ooh, that's a good question. Color commentator? In hockey, it'd be Daryl Ray, anyway. He's fantastic. Just the idioms that he comes up with are fantastic. In baseball, though, I really like John Smoltz. What's his name? Schulman, as a play-by-play guy, was fantastic for ESPN. I grew up, watching Sunday Night Baseball with Patrick. What's his name? The guy who does I want to say the Giants games. He was the national broadcaster for a long time for ESPN. I really liked him on play-by-play. But as far as color commentator, I just like the breakdowns John Smoltz gives us. Angels will come out of the meetings with any other major signings. I think they'll at least get one more piece, whether that's a rotation piece or another catcher or they add another shortstop. I think they're going to make some type of a move. If I'm the Angels, I try to get Rodan. I don't think they will, but that's who they should go for. White Sox announcers on a national level, though, that's what we're referring to. The color commentators are kind of thin anyway at the national level, but again, I would still probably lean Smoltz. Yeah, you're a lucky man, Mark, to be able to listen to those games. I could listen to Dan Schulman call any game on baseball. John Miller, there you go. That's his name. I remember. That's who I remember growing up with. He was fantastic. Joe Morgan and John Miller. That team was fantastic in the booth for ESPN. I really enjoyed listening to their games. The Braves had a great play-by-play guy when I was young on TBS anyway. Milo Hamilton back when I was young with the Astros. Still going right now, Eric Nadel of Texas Rangers. He was a Frick Award recipient a couple years ago. He's fantastic. I'm not sure how many more years I'll get to have of him. Tom Grieve of the Texas Rangers, as far as a local guy, just the stories that man could tell you. Oh my goodness, he was fantastic. He retired finally at the end of this year, though. He was not doing every single game anymore, but really enjoyed his perspective on the game and the stories he would give us. So you guys let us know who's your favorite color commentator. But Tom Grieve, in his final game, they would let him literally just riff the entire half inning, just sharing story after story after story. And he talked about you know how kind of like there's an old timers game between certain teams. Back when the Rangers were coming to Arlington, anyway, they had an old timers game like I want to say when he finally moved over to the management side of the Rangers anyway at one point. And Pee Wee Reese came in there. All the players were joking around with him, hey, dapping him up and all that kind of a thing. And then the Yankees, there was, what's his name, Joe DiMaggio was coming into the locker room, and the entire mood of the locker room just switched on a dime. Everybody basically came up to kiss the ring, shake his hand with reverence. Meanwhile, DiMaggio's just folding up his coat, hanging it over his briefcase, setting his locker up, and the entire locker room is just in awe of him. Just the stories like that Tom Grieve would tell routinely every single time. It was so unique, and I'll miss having him on play-by-play for the Rangers. Dave Van Horn, I remember the name. I can't remember where I've heard that name before, though. At this point, Astros still win the AL West by 10-plus games? Absolutely not. I think the Astros win total is going to be underneath 100 games. I think they'll still win the AL West. I don't think they've fallen off that much. And I just think that the division is so much more competitive. That and the schedule change is now 13 games in your own division. That way every team can face every other team out there. The schedule will be a lot more even. We'll see a lot different records, I think, than we have seen over the past 20 years because of that change in the schedule. But I'm very curious to see how things shake out in the AL West. I think still the Astros win the division as currently constructed. I would say the Mariners and Rangers are right there and will probably win a wild card for each of them. The final wild card, I believe, goes to the AL East. I don't think there's going to be 3 teams in the playoffs this year out of the AL East. I think we'll see 2. I think we'll see the Blue Jays and then either the Rays, Yankees, or Orioles, depending on the outcome of the Aaron Judge signing. John Kruk was fantastic on the national level. I don't think he's on the national scene anymore. I think he just does Philadelphia Phillies games now. Really appreciate you guys joining us. Welcome in, MJ. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining us. Matthew, welcome back. I know we got 70 viewers right now. Major League Baseball's winter meetings in full swing right now. Just waiting to see if we get any other big news tonight. We'll go over the headlines here in just a moment again. But if you haven't joined us before, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll keep you guys updated on everything that happens from the Major League Baseball winter meetings, whether it's from MLB, NBA, NFL, or the NHL. We'll keep you guys updated. Put out a short little video and then try to go live thereafter to let you guys see the more in-depth sides of what happened around that transaction, etc. But I'm hoping tonight we finally see some trades. Haven't seen any yet at the winter meetings, so that's kind of the one thing I'm waiting to kind of unclog. I wonder if the Aaron Judge signing is holding up that market as well. Any truth to the rumor that Aaron Judge signed with the Giants? Not yet. I think it's basically a fait accompli at this point. I think it's going to happen. I think it's just a matter of time. John Heyman just basically jumped the gun. I don't think they've dotted all the I's and crossed the T's, which is why the Yankees say they're still in there. But I'll be curious to see, if he doesn't go to the Giants. I still think the Yankees are most likely if he doesn't go there. Red Sox reporters are saying that Matt Carpenter's name has come up as a possible DH option for the Red Sox. Doesn't really fit right now on the roster with Hosmer, Dahlbuck, and Cassis, but they're saying that a trade could open things up if they bring in Matt Carpenter. So maybe we could see a trade of like an Eric Hosmer, who's literally playing for free right now for the Red Sox, because the Padres are literally paying every single cent of his contract right now. Any news on Liam Hendriks being traded? We talked about that earlier in our live, earlier in the day anyway. Liam Hendriks isn't necessarily being shopped, but he's the one trade piece I'd imagine they'd easily be able to move, since they have a good bullpen back there and would be able to replace his production in the bullpen. That money needs to go somewhere else on that roster. The ownership there is not willing to invest one dime, it sounds like, in free agency, so they're going to have to free up some money somewhere. Trading a guy like Liam Hendriks frees up about $15 million that they could bring in an outfielder with, that they could bring in a platoon guy at first base, something like that. But they need to address the outfield spots for them and stay healthy primarily. They already spent money on Clevenger. That's basically all the money they had to spend this offseason. Want to hear a huge trade? Exactly. I'm here for it. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting for it. So once Rodan finally signs on the starting pitching market in free agency is when people are going to start looking at Bieber, Lopez, and Bassett. Bassett, yes, but they're still going to be in on Senga. Bieber, I wonder if that's a little bit more further down the road. Lopez, I think, goes right to the front of the line as far as trade candidates, along with the Brewers guys in Woodruff and Burns. I imagine there's some other starting candidates out there that could be moved that we haven't heard as commonly on the national scene anyway. But kind of keep your eyes peeled. We're going to see some activity tonight. I believe we'll see at least one trade, hopefully. We saw the Rockies make a trade earlier today, a very small one, not worth mentioning anyway. Wish we had an owner that wasn't named Jerry. Just updating one more time, see if anything else is coming across. Now that Strom is off the board, maybe Eovaldi will fall next. They were supposedly linked by the Red Sox reporters as far as similar stages in their contract negotiations with other teams. Jays did apparently offer more money for Heaney as well. Interesting. Texas, I guess, is starting to get guys that they want now. Rangers have not been able to do that for years. If you guys didn't sign DeGrom in a trade market, you would have been in Brandon Woodruff or Burns. I don't think we would have been able to get a guy like Corbin Burns. I think he'd have been too costly for the Rangers. I think Woodruff is still in play for anybody right now. His value isn't as high as what you might think. A couple of good prospects, and you might be able to pry him away. Maybe a couple of pieces on the back end, but things look good. Welcome in Ultrix. Welcome in Mr. Rodriguez. It's been reported when the Heyman false report came out, it was Judge's camp who informed the Yankees directly. The rumor was not true. Okay. Hal Steinbrenner has taken over negotiations. Hal Steinbrenner's been in negotiations for the better part of a month now. He's been handling it pretty much directly along with Cashman, but basically it's Hal Steinbrenner that's been talking to Aaron Judge's camp. You really hope Ballmer is buying the Angels? If he treats them like he does the Clippers, then that's a great thing for the Angels. But again, is it enough to keep Shohei there after this year? Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Appreciate that. I do what I can. We've had a lot of success this year. MLB trade deadline, we gained over 200 subscribers. NFL trade deadline, gained over 200 subscribers. This week already, we've gained over, I think, 100 subscribers now. So we're gaining quite a bit. So make sure you join us here at the Upside. We're climbing. Let's see how high we can get it. Welcome in, Eric. Are the Dodgers going to do anything? Absolutely. I mean, they cut $100 million in payroll from from their salaries last year. They're going to do something. Now, what do they do? I think they're going to try to bring in a shortstop. I think they're still going to have to add at least two starting pitchers, whether that's at the front end of that rotation or the back. They need at least two. And then, of course, the bullpen needs to be addressed. That lineup still needs some work as well, but just I think around the periphery is what they'll do there. Nothing big. But they've got some work to do, possibly bringing back Justin Turner as well as an option. What will happen to the Stros without Verlander? I think they're going to have a lot more pressure on them. At least that starting staff will, because there's no longer a Garrett Cole or a Verlander for the media to ask the questions to. Now it's going to be Valdez as the head of that rotation, followed by McCullers and Javier or Urquidy. They've got a lot of good young players. The question will be now without that veteran to kind of head that rotation, how will they perform, especially in a division that's gotten a lot more competitive? And we'll see how they handle it. I still think they'll do very well. I just don't think they'll be a 100-win team next year. But that's kind of how I see the Astros season unfolding. Now, if they add another great left fielder out there, say they bring back Brantley, and he finds the fountain of youth again and is able to play, say 140 games, 130 games in left field, then I think they'll really have something. Welcome in, Jason. Appreciate you for joining us. Do you see teams hesitant to spend, like the Dodgers, to be in on Otani should he become available? Otani's not going to be available via trade. They're waiting until next offseason when he will be available in free agency. Now, of course, it will take a competitive or a draft pick compensation because I'm sure they'll extend him a qualifying offer. I'm expecting a $50+ million average annual value in a contract for Otani next year. So we'll see where he ends up going. But it sounds like the Dodgers are trying to keep their powder dry to a certain extent. So maybe the Dodgers are looking more at one-year contract offers for players to try to make that money work next year for Otani. But he seems to be their true free agent target right now. They're willing to kind of forego the guys at the top of the market this year to be able to bring in Shohei Otani next year. I think the Yankees will be stiff competition for him, but I think the Yankees are going to be even stiffer competition for a guy like Rafael Devers from the Red Sox, because I don't think they're going to be able to negotiate a extension before the end of the year. And I think the Red Sox, honestly, since they're not going to be able to get that extension done, if you're thinking you might lose him in free agency, I would have traded him a year ago. That's what I would have done if I'm the Red Sox and just started this rebuild and just bottomed out. And now they're stuck in the middle. They're going to be at the bottom of the division anyway. They're probably not going to be in range of a top 5 pick outside of the lottery anyway. But they have some question marks to answer. They have my favorite first baseman. Welcome in, help wanted. Do you think the Mets make another big offseason splash? I think they're going to add at least one more starter. Hopefully they bring back Nimmo. They need to address third base, DH, and bullpen. So the Mets, by far, are not done. What will happen to the Astros? We already answered that one. I'm not sure who you're referring to as your favorite first baseman, though, Matthew. Oh, you're talking about Andrew Vaughn? Interesting. Not my favorite first baseman. For me, I like Freddie Freeman, but I liked him when he was with the Braves. I still like him when he was now that he's with the Dodgers. He's just that good. But he's a guy I root for. Who is the one owner from another sport that you wish bought a team in baseball, for example, the Tampa Bay Rays or Miami Marlins, if they're up for sale again? Well, okay, so I live in Texas, and I know Mark Cuban has tried buying baseball teams in the past, most notably the Pittsburgh Pirates, where he's from originally, and the Chicago Cubs. Both times he was denied by Major League Baseball. They thought he wasn't fit to be an owner in Major League Baseball. My argument is, what exactly makes Mark Cuban not fit? I mean, at that time, supposedly, the arguments with David Stern, etc., fining, etc., maybe it was just a little too aggressive and flamboyant for Major League Baseball. Sure. But now baseball's in a different era. Mark Cuban's gotten older, doesn't necessarily do that as often. And I think baseball needs that type of energy from an owner. And so if I'm a Major League Baseball team and I'm looking to sell, he's a guy maybe I would ask, or at least the fan base I would want to have running my team. I mean, he spares no expense as far as having the best facilities. So, for instance, say the Oakland A's were up for sale or wanted to relocate. Look at how atrocious the stadium is there. Literally raw sewage on the ground, closing down sections of the stadium, not just for a day or two, for months at a time. Mark Cuban would never let that happen, not even for a day. And it's despicable that the Oakland A's have let that happen not just once, but multiple times throughout their tenure there at the Oakland Coliseum. If you're the Dodgers GM, what would you do? Who would I go after right now? First, I would go after Xander Bogaerts or Carlos Correa. My pick of the two probably be Xander Bogaerts because it'd be a little bit cheaper, and I think I could probably convince him to sign on the dotted line before Correa, and I don't necessarily want to wait around. Then I look to address the starting rotation. I look for some back-end starters, somebody who can come in, give me a few innings. Think of Andrew Heaney last year giving them 75 innings, the Tyler Andersons of the world. Those type of cases where I think I see something there. Those are the type of pieces I would go for if I'm the Dodgers. Then I look to bring back Justin Turner at third base and kind of go from there and try to improve my platoons if I could. Do you think there's a chance Urquidy is traded? No, I think they're trying to roll with that starting rotation as currently constructed. Move over, Fuzzy. There's a new sheriff in town. Well, I don't have that fuzz anymore, that's for sure. Help wanted. Where do you see Reynolds, or where do I think Reynolds ends up? I do think he'll be traded. I think if Nimmo leaves, I think Reynolds goes to the Mets. If Nimmo goes back to the Mets, then I think Reynolds could go to, like, I wonder if the Jays are serious about Reynolds. I think there'd be a good fit with the San Francisco Giants if they don't end up with Aaron Judge. But his market is yet to develop, so it's a little early to tell. Judge to the Stros, that would be absolutely insane. They're not willing to go that level of contract from what I've seen. More news on Matt Carpenter. They see him more as a fallback option at DH should nothing else materialize. So an update there from the Red Sox beat writers. Jose Abreu. Okay. He was your favorite first baseman. I mean, he is a great hitter. Fourth in hits last year. Nothing but consistent. Welcome in, John. Appreciate you for joining us. Mets need to sign some pitchers ASAP. Sean Manaea, I think he'd be a good number 4 starter for you. Rodan, I think, is the one you're talking about. He would be a fantastic number 3. Even if you didn't bring in another starter, I think a 1, 2, 3 of Rodan, Scherzer, and Verlander might be one of the top rotations, 1, 2, 3, that we've seen since Glavine, Smoltz, and Maddox. Would the owner of the San Antonio Spurs buy a baseball team? I don't know who's the owner of the Spurs. They're very well run. I don't know the owner off the top of my head, though. But appreciate you guys joining us. Got about 75 of you guys in here right now. Make sure you drop a like on the video. Really helped us out. See if we can get more people to join this conversation. And hopefully we get some trades going tonight. We haven't really seen any major trades go down yet. We've seen one smaller, I say smaller, much smaller level trade go down between the Colorado Rockies and I can't remember the other team. I want to say Boston, but I could be wrong. And then, of course, hopefully we get the signing of Aaron Judge tonight. Hopefully we get that confirmation that he's going to go either to the Giants or to the Yankees. It's really holding up things right now. But hopefully we'll see things happen. Welcome in, Mr. Padden. Appreciate you for joining us. You want Swanson on the Dodgers? I think he would be a cheaper option that could solve your shortstop issues. That bat, I wonder if it's going to hold up in the long run. I mean, he basically had a great career year, as most free agents or pending free agents do. And I just wonder if it's going to end up happening for him. Peter Holtz, okay. Swanson to Houston or Giants? No. Swanson was not going to go to the Houston. I mean, they have Jeremy Pena there, the ALCS MVP, World Series MVP. Giants is much more likely out of the two, but again, I still think they're going to be in the market for Correa or Bogaerts before Swanson. And, yeah. Swanson's not going to Houston. They're looking left field and bullpen, maybe a catcher, and that's about the only needs Houston has right now. Welcome in, Michael. Appreciate you for joining us. Welcome to the Michael Club, I guess. What moves do you see the Yanks making if they can't retain Judge? That's the hard part to predict this offseason. Let's go ahead and just go with a hypothetical. We say Judge signs 10 years, $400 million to the Giants. What is the next step for the Yankees? First, I think they make a call to Carlos Correa, see if they can get him in there. Gives you some production that Judge would have given you anyway. Not necessarily at his level, but he fills that hole in the lineup at least. You're still going to have to make other moves to try to improve. And then you still have Volpe and Peraza as trade chips if you want to improve outside of that. They're supposedly in on Yoshida, the international free agent. I think they should go after, or should be able to bring him in. They're said to be looking to dump the Josh Donaldson contract via a prospect trade. I wouldn't do that. I'd just eat the contract and ride it out for a year. I'd look to bring in a couple of starters. I'd make a call to Jameson Taillon, see if I could bring him back. I'd look for lower end starters on the market, see if I could get some juice out of them, like a Drew Smyly, Wade Miley type. The lower end of the starting pitching market to give me some depth. They didn't have depth last year, and we saw that bite them in the rear end. That's part of the reason why the Yankees did not advance or had their struggles in the second half of the season, because they didn't have the depth that they needed in that starting staff. But that's what I would do if I'm the Yankees. Finally, I would try to make a big trade, something to headline grabbing. Make the fans forget about Aaron Judge, even though they're not going to be able to. You need a page one trade, so not a trade for a guy that hits 280 on another team with 10 homers and 60 RBIs. That's not going to do anything. If you're looking for an impact type trade, I would look at the level of star level players. That's going to cost you a trade that includes the prospect package of a Volpe or a Peraza or any other of your or a Jason Dominguez, any of the other top tier of your prospect pool. That's what I could see the Yankees doing if they lose Aaron Judge. Now, of course, Plan A is still to bring back Aaron Judge, add a contact hitter, add some starting rotation pieces. That's Plan A for the Yankees, but it sounds like Plan B might end up having to be formulated a lot faster than they would have liked. Anthony, why does it take certain players to develop their power to later on in their career? I've heard when it happens that fans sometimes accuse the player of doing roids, I guess is what you're trying to say there. I would just say that some players learn a better swing path. They learn better as far as what pitchers are trying to do to them, try to fool them. They see pitches a little bit better as they age. Their bat to ball skills can improve. Now, as far as their ability to hit it on the barrel, that's the biggest jump, I think. For instance, Trey Turner is not necessarily known as a power guy coming up. Now he hits about 30 home runs. I mean, the Phillies are going to have a lot of home runs, but Trey Turner also gives them some speed. But to answer your question, why does power seem to develop sometimes a little bit later? Well, you're starting to hit the ball with a little bit more authoritative contact. You're smarter with the zone. You understand what pitchers are trying to do to you, and you have a better plan at the plate than you did when you were, say, 20, 22 years old when you first come up. You're so happy that the Giants finally made a move. Welcome back, who's on first, by the way. Appreciate you for joining us once again. But yes, they do add Mitch Haniger, 3 years, $43.5 million with an opt-out after the second year. They're said to still be in the market for another outfielder, Aaron Judge. But Jock Peterson, I think, is going to end up as the DH there for the majority of the season if they bring in Aaron Judge. Brash Hancock, Harry Ford for Reynolds. Good question. Let me pull up the prospect pool real quick. Your top two prospects and Brash. I mean, those guys aren't necessarily viewed as, the top end prospects that you gave up for Luis Castillo. Ugh. I'm sure other teams will be able to beat the offer, but that's a good starting offer there if for the Mariners there, Mark. That's not a bad offer. In your opinion, Nimmo is gone. Do you see the Mets make a trade with Boston for Devers? I don't think they have the prospect capital to do it, though, for the Mets. I mean, their farm system has not been that good over the last couple of years. They basically gave it away in the Lindor trade. I just don't see that type of thing working out for the Mets. As far as Nimmo, I think there's a real chance Nimmo could come back depending on what Cohen wants to do financially. If he really has been trying to stick to his guns as far as length of a contract, overall average annual value of a contract for a player, then they might not be able to keep Nimmo, but I still think Nimmo is going to be the guy. I told you the Giants were looking for another outfielder, so what I'm hearing is there's a slight hesitation about the year with the Giant contract. Okay. Are you referring to the Judge contract on the second part of your comment there, James? Or are you referring to the Haniger one that already seems to be agreed upon? The Giants are definitely building something. I do agree that they're going to make other moves, though, other than Aaron Judge, if they get him. I would expect them to try to add at least one infielder, whether that be a shortstop, a third baseman, a first baseman, whatever the case may be. They're going to add somebody. Where is Profar going? He wants 12 to 15 a year. I don't think he's going to get 12 to 15. I think he could get somewhere in between 10 to 12, sure, but 12 to 15 is a little bit rich. Welcome in, JNT. Appreciate you for joining us. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you're new here to the Upside. Really appreciate you guys helping us out and seeing how high we can get our subscriber count. It really does help us out for those of us who do YouTube. If you hit that subscribe and like, I can't tell you guys how much it matters to us. So if you wouldn't mind going ahead and hitting that button for us, thank you guys very much. Caleb, Aaron Judge is not going to be a Red. Sorry. I mean, they need outfielders, but no. Brian Reynolds to the Dodgers for Bush, Pipio, Pages, and Stone. I think the Dodgers say no on that one. I mean, Bush, I think they view Michael Bush right now very similar to the way they viewed Gavin Lux a couple of years ago. And Pages is up there. Pipio is up there as well as far as prospect status. That's a little rich for a guy like Brian Reynolds. Sorry, voice to text missed what I was trying to say there. Giants are building something here. Driving Judge hasn't made a decision yet because they're working out an exact number of years. It may be bigger than we all think. That's what I'm being told. Well, I'll put it this way. Free agent contracts in general for the bigger players always seem to astonish us. My prediction was 40 million per year, 10 years, so a total value of $400 million. I wonder if the Giants are trying to get that package together, and maybe we'll see an option on the end of the deal. I wonder if they may even give him an extra year on top of that to lower the AAV. But I think Judge to the San Francisco Giants is looking like a deal that likely gets done, probably signed, sealed, and delivered tomorrow. I wonder if we see Aaron Judge in San Diego tomorrow for the winter meetings and do the press conference, the signing, the whole bit, and then he can go on his vacation. But we'll see how things go. I got an ESPN notification that the Reds are interested in McCutchen earlier. That's probably the best free agent we could possibly get, sure. But there is also interest from the Rays and Dodgers, and I would imagine the Pirates would love to have him back to kind of shepherd their young guys. If I'm McCutchen, I try to stay on a contender. I'm not sure how much playing time I get in Tampa Bay. As a veteran, I think that would help them, but I'm not sure that's the right move for Tampa in the long run. I do think that him going to the Dodgers, giving them a nice platoon advantage there, should help solve some of their issues as far as the lineup, lengthening out that lineup issues, those kinds of things. Welcome in, Jessica. Appreciate you for joining us. Astros back-to-back, maybe. I still think they're a very good team. We'll see how things work out. But from Puerto Rico, okay. Welcome in, Bay Productions. Prediction, Blue Jays sign Nimmo 3 at 55.5. Not happening. That figure is going to be 20 million average annual value or more. He is looking for anywhere between 5 to 6 years in contract length. I think it'll ultimately end up going between 4 and 5 years. But yeah, I think we're pretty close to it, James. I think we're getting close to the contract terms. I told you guys probably around the All-Star break anyway, that a contract in the neighborhood of $40 million would make a lot of sense for him. But we'll see how things end up working out. What's y'all's prediction for Aaron Judge? What do you think the number's going to end up being? Are the Rangers done? Absolutely not. I think that their decision not to go with Carlos Rodon, I think they could have done that money easily for what Rodan is going to ultimately end up signing for. But because they chose to go with Andrew Heaney instead, that saves them about $20 million left to spend on that free agent market. Maybe they go out there and get an outfielder. Maybe they go out there and get another starting pitcher. Maybe they get a bullpen piece. But, yeah. Yep. Bush has a nice power swing. Yes, he does. The Brewers want him for Adames. Absolutely, I would imagine they would. Might be tomorrow when Judge signs. I think it will be when he signs, but I think that we'll get the information as to what the contract is later on this evening. 9 years at 380. That's a little bit more as far as average annual value than I have, but maybe that ultimately works out. But I think we're going to end up seeing a 10-year deal for Aaron Judge. Any surprise team for Judge, a team we have not heard yet? Well, obviously, no. But if I were a devil's advocate, what could be a surprise team here? No, actually, no. I'm not even going to do that. I think it's strictly between the Giants and Yankees at this point. Caleb, 9 years for the Yankees, $415 million. I think that would be enough to convince Judge to go back to the Yankees, honestly. 9 years, 415. If you tack on another year to that, I think for sure he signs. Welcome in, Gene. Appreciate you for joining us. 380 million is your projection. Okay. Bay Productions, Judge to Giants, 9 at 360. That's already in the media reports. I think it's going to be higher than that. That's the only question I have about that being the ultimate figure he signs for. I'm with James. I think that there's going to be another year on top of that. I think it's going to be a 10-year deal ultimately to take him through his age 41 season. And I think we're going to be looking north of $400 million when it's all said and done. I think he's going to be the first free agent position player to ever sign for $400 million plus total salary. Signing 10 years, $50 million, Joshua. I think the Giants could afford it, but I don't think it'll have to go nearly that high. So if it happens to be $500 million contract, so be it. But I think Otani is the guy that breaks that mark next year because he's both a starting pitcher, an ace-level starting pitcher, and a great slugger, possibly a top 2 DH in the entire major leagues. So kind of keep that in mind as far as Shohei Otani numbers. This year, though, I think you're looking at 10 years, $400 million for Aaron Judge. Theoretically, if every Reds fan gave the Reds owner $4 to sign Aaron Judge, Cincinnati wouldn't have to pay almost anything. Again, the Reds aren't going after Aaron Judge. Sorry, Caleb. Gene, if 10 years, I'd say 420. That makes sense as well. I told you guys anywhere between 40 to 45 million I think is what he's going to ultimately end up signing for. But I think 10 years, 400 million is what's going to end up happening. We've seen a lot of these contracts have options on them. I'm with you, James. That 11th year as a player option might make some sense. Incentives, I don't think there's going to be incentives in the contract nearly to the level that there have been, say, like in an Andrew Heaney contract, for instance, where he got 2 years, 25, where the value could almost get 1.5 times the value if he hits certain incentives. I don't think it's going to be that level of incentives. A's sign Judge for $100? No. A's need to solve their stadium issue before they do anything else and trade Sean Murphy. They just need to do the stadium thing sooner rather than later. I mean, come on, raw sewage for months at a time, literally sitting out, baking in the sun, closing off entire sections of the stadium because you couldn't take care of plumbing? Come on. I know you're just joking, Caleb. I know. You think he's going to go back to New York? I mean, they are still in the running. I just think the tides have shifted now toward the Giants are the front runner. Padres do need some pitching. I think they're going to add at least one starter. I don't think they need multiple, though. One starting pitcher. I think Chris Bassett might be the biggest one that they're after, as far as legitimately, and then maybe Senga as well. But I think Bassett is a more likely sign for them. If Texas were to make a trade for any kind, who do you think it would look at the end and make the trade from the roster? I think Dunning is going to be available for trade. Duran, Smith, and of course some of their AAA starting pitchers. They have a plethora of good middle infielders at the upper levels of the minor leagues as well that they could deal from. As far as what could they trade for, left field, I'm not sure who it would be. I would imagine it'd have to be somebody with some cost control. I'd imagine a closer would be high on the list. Liam Hendricks could be a guy they'd be interested in. Maybe Bednar out of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Maybe they go twofer and get Bednar and Reynolds from the Pirates. Not that I think they're overly interested in Reynolds because they have Tavares in center. But those are kind of the guys I would keep an eye out for if I'm looking for a trade. I don't understand why they want such long contracts when contracts almost double every couple of years. It's because those contracts are for position players for the majority of them, or they have injury issues. They want to secure their future of their families. You're never promised tomorrow, etc., so you want to get the best deal you possibly can. Welcome in, Bob. Appreciate you for joining us. Got a lot of people in here. We're over 80 people in our viewers right now. Hit that like and subscribe if you could, please. Really does help us out. See if I can answer your questions as quick as I can. I went to the stadium. It was bad, really bad, absolutely. The A Stadium is the worst stadium in professional sports. It's not close. I think Trout should be traded. He's injury prone, and the Giants aren't winning anytime soon, especially if Otani leaves. Very true. I think the Angels should have traded him a couple years ago, but they're not going to. Trout is the most loyal player in Major League Baseball right now. He will retire an LA Angel. Do you think that big body of his will hold up if we really haven't seen a player the size of this ball player last a long time around in this league? To answer your question as far as his durability, I think he'll be fine for at least the next 5-6 years. We've never seen a player hit the ball as hard as we have with Aaron Judge. He has had injury issues in the past, but long term, I still think it's going to work out wherever things end up going. Rosenthal saying that the Cubs are pursuing Taillon. Yes, I think they should. They need some starting pitching. I wondered why they were pushing so hard for position players and not starting pitching. Bringing in Taillon gives them a good number 3 type starter that they're probably going to have to play out of position as a number 1 or 2 in their rotation. Trout for Fernando Tatis Jr. straight up? No, not happening on either side, honestly. I saw the Phillies signed a reliever. Yes, they brought in Matt Strahm from the Red Sox, 2 years, $13.5 million, I think was the deal. But to kind of finish up on your question there, James, I think he will hold up for the majority of the deal. Do I think he could hold up for 10? Who knows? Because we've never seen a player quite like him hit the free agent market, and he did develop late as a player. He is 31 as a free agent, so kind of take all of this with a grain of thought. What if the Padres? What if the Padres threw the money that they were thrown at Turner at Aaron Judge? That'd be an interesting what if. I mean, if you were to try to throw a what if out there, if it weren't going to be the Giants or the Yankees, they might make some sense. They do need an outfielder, but I think they're going to go a little bit cheaper there. I think they're going to try to add an infielder and a starting pitcher with their money more than anything else, and try to bring back Jerks and Profar. Nimmo predictions, too early to tell still. The market is purely dependent on what happens with the shortstops and what happens to Judge. Still too early on Nimmo, but if I'm the Mets, I try everything I possibly can to get it done. Gene, so is San Diego done with Tatis since they threw that big contract at Turner? No, they're trying to move Tatis Jr. to the outfield. I do think you could try to trade him or trade for him if you're a team looking for a shortstop and you miss out on some of the top tier guys and you want to bring in Tatis just because of the way that team, just how things ended last year with Tatis Jr. I think you could convince Preller to part with him if you put a strong enough offer on the table. Where will Rodan sign? Anybody's guess right now. I thought the Rangers made the most sense because they're still heavily interested in bringing him in. I still think the Rangers are in on his market, even after bringing in Andrew Heaney. They have a lot of injury concerns in their rotation. Rodan, the reason why he signed that 1 year with an option with the Giants is because he had his own injury issues. They weren't sure if his arm would hold up. His arm held up all year long, and he's got really good production anyway. We'll see where he ends up going, but there really is no favorite in the clubhouse for him. I'd like to see the Phillies bring back Syndergaard. Now, bringing him back as a number 3 type, 4 type starter makes some sense now that they've brought in Taijuan Walker as well to give them some depth in that rotation. Tom Brady and Aaron Judge were talking after the Bucs game last night. Hopefully Brady talked to him about signing with the Giants. Brady would be a good guy to talk to about leaving a place where you've known all your career. Brady left the Patriots, went to the Buccaneers. Things went great at the beginning. Now not so much. Maybe he can give some insight to Aaron Judge about the perils of changing teams. Where will Nimmo go? Again, too early to tell. Where will Correa go? Correa, I think, could go to the Yankees if Judge goes to the Giants. He could still, of course, go to the Giants along with Judge. I think he wants to make a statement to the Houston Astros saying, hey, I know you won the World Series in your first year without me, but watch my contract where I go and the success I'm going to have there. So kind of keep your eyes peeled as far as some of the winning teams for Correa. The Twins are said to be really high up there as far as 1 year, 6 year, 8 year, and 10-year offers on the table. You're saying Judge signed? I don't see it yet. Is that your prediction, Pens? 8 for 360. The average annual value there is really nice. but I think he's going to get more years, and I think he's going to get more money. I think Nimmo will go to the Blue Jays or Seattle because they lost Mitch Haniger. Mitch Haniger, the loss there, they do have a need for an outfielder. I think the Mariners are still in there. The Jays are still in there. I think the Giants, if they miss out on Judge, are going to be in there. Pretty much any team that needs an outfielder, either a corner outfielder or a center fielder, might end up working. Oh, you were joking? Okay. Welcome in, Rich. Appreciate you for joining us. Aaron, you don't want to watch or call from under Redwood Tree. Funny one. Welcome in, Dustin. Rodan in Texas would make a nasty rotation if they stayed healthy, contenders at that point. I would definitely say so. That rotation would look absolutely filthy, especially if they stayed healthy. Heaney was, if you believe the strikeout numbers from last year, if he really made strides, much like if you're the Angels, you have to believe in Tyler Anderson. If they both found something with the Dodgers last year, then both clubs are going to be very happy with the production they get. If the Rangers get Rodan, I'm booking it right now. They're going to be contenders not only for a wild card, they will push the Astros for the division. That might seem like crazy talk out of me, but look at that rotation. Bringing in DeGrom, bringing in Rodan, Perez, Gray, Odorizzi, and Heaney. That's 6 starters. Even if they lose one of them due to injury, they've still got 5. And then, of course, they still have Dunning, Otto, a whole bunch of other depth options in case of injury or poor performance or whatever the case may be. And they could trade some of those pieces for other needs. I think they will be right up there, especially if they get Rodan. They still need to address the back end of the bullpen before anything else, though, in my opinion. I don't think they'll end up getting Rodan, but that rotation would be absolutely sick if the Rangers get Carlos Rodon. I would like to see the Mets grab Senga. I would as well. The Mets need a number 3 in that rotation of the ilk, similar to the top end of that rotation. I think that the Chris Bassett signing might be a good one as well. Rangers and Astros ALCS. That would be very interesting, absolutely. I think Bogarts is more likely to land in San Francisco if they get Judge. I would like to see that. Possibly because Bogarts' money, I think, could be a little bit lower, but I think Bogarts makes more sense to me to go to the Dodgers. I think Correa could go there to the Giants as kind of a second big piece for the Giants. But Bogarts could just as easily fit. Judge to Giants, Brady to Niners. Brady's going to probably, I don't know what Brady's going to do next year. There's a number of different ways that he could go. But the Niners right now are going to, of course, be stuck with Brock Purdy. Maybe we'll end up seeing Jimmy Garoppolo back before the playoffs begin. If you're a 49ers fan, you got to hope for that. Got 95 of you guys in here right now. Wow. Appreciate all the people in here right now. If I could get you guys, even half of you guys, just to hit that subscribe button right now, it would really help me out. Thank you so much if you could do that. Hit that like button as well. We'll keep you guys updated on anything that comes from the MLB winter meetings. So hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Kershaw joining Texas next year for sure. Possibly, but I think Kershaw, the more and more I see Kershaw staying with the Dodgers last year and then this year, the more I see him finishing his career as a LA Dodger. When do you think Judge will make his decision? I think it will come down to tonight, maybe early morning tomorrow, but I think he signs on the dotted line, has the press conference and everything tomorrow. Where will Bogarts go? If I had to put money on it right now, I would say the Diamondbacks have shown a lot of interest, more than I would have thought. I thought they were more of a fly in the ointment, if you will, in his market, but they seem legitimately interested in bringing him into town. They have the connection to him from the past. But I would still say the Dodgers make the most sense because I think they're going to take advantage of that situation. Judge how much? My prediction's still steady at $400 million for 10 years, and I think the Giants now are the team that gets him. Phillies, Mets, Braves at the top of the East will be a battle. Mets need to keep up with Philly especially. That team is looking excellent after their additions. Well, again, the Braves won the division. Their only big free agent right now is Dansby Swanson. They're looking at possibly improving their catching. The division still runs through the Braves, in my opinion. Now, the Phillies have certainly improved it. If Bryce was going to be healthy all year, I would say the Phillies win the division. But I still think the Braves are on top right now until the Phillies address another starting piece in that rotation or add another bat with Bryce Harper being out. Kershaw is very loyal, exactly. Sub-Zero, welcome in. Welcome in. I see you've commented a few times. Will we see a $500 million offer? No, you'll see that next year with Shohei Ohtani. Do you see Judge not signing this winter meetings? If he doesn't sign with the Giants during the winter meetings, I have a feeling it's going to go back to New York. I don't think it's going to go back to New York. I don't think it gets outside of the winter meetings. I think he wants to get it done. It sounds like he has vacation plans after the winter meetings anyway. That's why it could be that he's going to San Diego tomorrow to go to the winter meetings to sign it, have the press conference, and get his offseason underway as far as his vacation. Taillon to the Cubs. We're seeing a lot of headlines for it. We'll see if they actually get it across the finish line. Mark Feinsand saying they're closing in on a deal with Jameson Taillon. Sounds like the Cubs are finally getting close to adding a starting pitcher. Good piece here. They, of course, still have Stroman. They have a couple other starters as well. But they really needed to do something, especially since their starting staff has not looked anything like it did in their World Series years anyway, with Lester, Hendricks, trying to remember his name. I can see his face. Jake Arrieta, those type of pieces. But yes, it looks like it is close now. Jameson Taillon going to the Cubs. Curious to see what the money ends up looking like. With Taijuan Walker getting 4 years at $72 million, Taillon I think is going to be a pinch above that. So we might see 4 years at $76 million, or maybe even 4 years at $80 for Jameson Taillon. I would have told you at the beginning of the offseason it would have been 4 years at $16 per. Right now I think we're well above that. As long as the Niners don't sign Mayfield, well, he's going to the Rams, so you don't have to worry about that. They didn't sign him. They claimed him off of waivers, by the way. So, Gene, they did not sign Baker Mayfield. They claimed him off of waivers from the Panthers. I have a funny feeling that Judge will sign with someone tomorrow. Well, that seems to be the feeling out there. Bob Nightingale saying that he's nearing a decision. Welcome in, Paul. Appreciate you for joining us for the first time. We got 90 people in here right now. If you guys could please hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. It helps us out so much. Thank you to those of you who've already subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Thank you very much. $20 million a year for Taillon? Yeah. I mean, if Taijuan Walker gets 18, I think Taillon is going to be able to get a little bit more. Philly really wants to win the World Series next year? Absolutely. I mean, they were right there. Why wouldn't they try to push a little further? I'm thinking the Giants offered Jock the qualifying offer, so it would help them this year, but also earmarks his contract and the money from Crawford to make a run at Otani. It does kind of set that up as well. I mean, getting both Judge and Otani might be, a crazy, sneaky thing for the Giants, but I think they're going to be outbid by the LA Dodgers next year, no matter what the Giants end up offering. I think Judge, if they get him and have a great first year with Aaron Judge on their roster, then maybe we could see a little bit more convincing case for them to make a run at Otani. But a good point there by Paul there. If you see his comment there, drop a like on it, or give a hand there to Paul. That's a good thing to point out with Crawford's money and the QO of Jock Peterson coming off the books next year. 1.5 or 1.35 million the rest of the season exactly. Correa to the Yankees if Judge leaves. I think that's a very clear possibility. Cubs are a possibility. The Giants are going to be there. The Dodgers, I think, are going to be in the market for him. And then, of course, the Minnesota Twins are still very heavily invested in bringing back Carlos Correa. I think the Mets go all out for Otani. I don't think they will. I think the rotation is deep enough. And I think they're going to have other issues that they're going to be contending with. And I wonder if Cohen finally sees that his purse strings are going to have to be tightened just a little bit, especially with this tax bill that he's going to have. But welcome in, everybody. Welcome in, Travis. Are the M's done, or who do you think they'll get? Well, they're not done. They still have to add an outfielder. I think they could use a designated hitter as well. They could use a number 5 starter. Are the Jays going to do anything? We answered that question a little bit earlier, but the Jays are still looking for an outfielder, probably a left-handed hitter. They lost out on Cody Bellinger. I imagine they're in there for Benintendi. They're in there for Nimmo. We'll see where they end up going. They're also in there in the trade market for Brian Reynolds. They're also looking for a number 5 starter and some bullpen help. Michael, what would the Yanks have to give up for Otani in a trade? Nothing, because he's not going to be moved anywhere. Angels are trying to convince him to stay, and stay he will, at least for right now. Will the Yankees rebuild if Judge leaves? I think they'll do what they did the year that they did a mini rebuild, literally traded off any piece that they could. They traded Aroldis Chapman for the #1 prospect in the game, a pure rental. That's why teams are a lot more frugal with their prospects. After seeing how that trade worked out, Chapman was back on the Yankees after 2 months of time with the Cubs. Now the trade worked out for the Cubs, ended their curse, etc. And but I don't think we'll see the Yankees rebuild for very long. I think they'll be right back at it the year after. But I don't think they're going to enter a full rebuild. I think if we start seeing them lose games, fall back in the standings, they might try to do a half-season sell-off just to kind of gain assets and then reinvest their money next off-season. Appreciate you guys joining us. Got 95 of you guys in here. Thank you guys. A lot of first-time chatters. Make sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Samuel asks, are the Padres going to do anything? I think they'll add at least one infielder. I wonder if it's going to be the likes of Xander Bogaerts. I mean, the offer to Trey Turner was $342 million. They're serious about making an addition in that infield. They're going to need a first baseman. Now, maybe they bring in Bogaerts, shift Cronenworth, and Kim if they have to. But the Padres are certainly going to add some pieces. They're also going to add to that starting staff. Sub-Zero, Volpe, Torres, Donaldson, Hicks, Kyle, the catcher for Reynolds. Way too much money, or way too much cost anyway. I understand you're trying to get out of some money by adding Volpe to Hicks and Donaldson, but the Pirates are not going to do that. They're not going to take on head cases around that young core that looks to be ready in about a year to compete in that NL Central. Trade prediction: A's trade Murphy to the Cardinals for some prospects. St. Louis will try to find a new catcher for years to come. They are in the market for catching, absolutely. They've been mentioned with Murphy and Jansen on the trade market, but it sounds like the favorite right now to go to St. Louis is Wilson Contreras. Mark Brantley would be a good DH for the Orioles, and Sean Manaea or Jose Quintana to give them a left-hander. I think those are good starting pitching options for the Orioles, one-year type deals that they could make. Brantley would be a good veteran. I wonder if they'll bring in Trey Mancini, though. But again, that's just because he has the connection to the Orioles and all that kind of thing. But Brantley would be a great add. Appreciate you guys joining us. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. It really does help us out. Thank you guys very much. Just going to check Twitter again, see if we have any new information. Looks like Taillon is literally meeting with the Cubs at this moment, trying to get the deal done. It sounds like they're just literally signing paperwork right now. Welcome in, Hero. First time I've seen you in the chat. Welcome in. Dodgers exodus, should they be worried? Absolutely. I've told you guys for the better part of a year now, they're not nearly as deep as they have been. Their prospects aren't hitting with the same regularity. And their lineup is not nearly as good as it has been because the platoons weren't quite as good this past year. Could those issues be resolved? Absolutely. Could they add certain pieces? Absolutely. Could the prospects start hitting again? Absolutely. But the Dodgers are in a little bit more hot water than I think they were prepared for. Say 2 years ago, I don't think they saw themselves in this type of a situation, seeing the trade not work out necessarily for Scherzer, the suspension for Bauer. They've still added some nice pieces around the periphery and in the core, of course, to their team with Freddie Freeman. But Dodgers have some questions to answer going forward. Giants have about $60 million freed up for next offseason. That would be a very interesting thing, depending on how they spend it this offseason. I hope the Mets make some kind of offensive splash third base outfielder options. I'd love to see them get Correa to play third and use Beatty as a big trade. Running it back offensively feels risky. Well, they do need to improve that offense. I think they're going to go cheaper, though. I think you're looking at possibly the guys like J.D. Martinez as a DH. If you lose Brandon Nimmo, possibly a trade for Brian Reynolds. Third base, maybe you bring in a veteran-type bat. Not saying this is a good option, but this is the only one I can think of off the top of my head. Evan Longoria, so kind of keep everything in perspective. Glad I could help out, Hero. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, it really does help us out. I can't tell you guys enough how important it is that you guys subscribe. I'm in review right now to see if I can finally get monetized and do this for you guys full time. Been doing this for the better part of a year, and I try to give you guys as much accurate information as I can. And really hope you guys enjoy the content. If you do, make sure you hit that subscribe and like. Just please and thank you. And we'll try to keep it up. Maybe even improve a little bit once we get through the review process. But if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe and like button. Hot Stove, Jameson Taillon, Jameson Taillon, you mean. Thank you, Vitalife. Thank you for the subscribe, by the way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But Jameson Taillon is indeed closing in on a deal for the Cubs. My prediction is this contract is going to come in just a hair north of Taijuan Walker. Again, that middle tier of starting pitchers is starting to come off the board. They're not waiting for Carlos Rodan to sign. They're trying to get those deals done. Maybe we see Rodan go down today, or tonight anyway. Do you see the Orioles making any trades? Josh has asked. I think the Orioles could make some trades around the periphery of that team. But if you're asking if they're going to make major investments, trading away top prospects, absolutely not. They're a team that needs to go out there and add pieces around the periphery of their team via free agency. Not qualified or qualifying offer guys, but actual free agents. That way they don't lose draft picks, etc. They're still a building team, and they don't need to be investing at the top of the market quite yet. Yankees get Rodan, Correa, Bogarts. If Judge leaves, would be a great Christmas present. Well, you're not getting all three. I would say if you're lucky, you get 2 out of the 3 if you lose Judge. But even then, I don't think that's what will end up happening. Auto-correcting, okay. Speaking of Bauer, what's going on with him? I don't think he's touchable right now by any major league team. I think it's going to take some significant time before another team tries to pursue him. Curious what Otani's contract would look like in regards to AAV. 12 years at $40 million? No. You're looking probably closer to a $50 million contract. Who got attacked by a dog today? Sean Murphy? Is that who you're referring to? Not sure who you're referring to, Bay Productions. But thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate all the likes we're getting. Thank you for that like. Appreciate that. Wild how Bassett could get 5 years. Absolutely. I started the offseason assuming you'd get 3 at most. Starter market is hot. I thought at the beginning of the offseason he would get 4 years. But 5 years does sound about right. Gabagoat, Dodgers not spending in wait for Otani. I think that they're still going to spend this offseason, but they are certainly saving some of their powder for Shohei Otani next year. I think it'll probably be a 10-year, $500 million contract for Otani next year. Maybe a little bit less as far as years, but very curious to see who ultimately ends up getting him. If I had to pinpoint a favorite right now, I would say the LA Dodgers. What about Yasiel Puig? I heard he was at the winter meetings. Yeah, they actually showed on MLB Network he was at the winter meetings with his agent. Remember, he does have legal issues going on right now, and he hasn't been in the majors for an extended period of time. I'm not sure he'll get a major league deal. I don't think he'll sign with anybody, unfortunately. I think his time in Major League Baseball, for the most part, is indeed over. Just going to double check and see if they finally have announced the deal yet. Nope. No deal as of yet for Taillon. Mark Feinsand reports the sides are indeed nearing agreement. Correa, Judge, Bogarts get off the board tomorrow, hopefully. I think Judge and Bogarts could happen. Correa, I think, might take a hair more time just because he's waiting for that Judge market. But we could see something like that. But I think Judge for sure. The shortstops to a lesser extent. Kenny, welcome in. That dude is trying to say that Otani was the one that got attacked by a dog. Oh, okay. Well, hopefully he's all right. I mean, you don't want to, lose out on $500 million. Reports out there that Wilson Contreras has received 5-year contract offers from both the Astros and Cardinals. Seems like his market is certainly heating up. Maybe he signs in the next 24 hours. Honestly, you hope the Dodgers pick up Puig. Well, he spent time there before. They do need help as far as platoons and lengthening out that lineup. I just don't know if he's the right fit right now for any major league team with his issues. Bauer got attacked by a dog. Okay. MLB Network discussing the Josh Bell signing, 2 years, $33 million for the Guardians. Opt out after the first year, I believe. Good signing there for the Guardians. Taking advantage of the market with the last great great in quotation marks first baseman on the market. If Dodgers think they're going to be able to wait in the weeds for Otani, I can guarantee they won't be able. The only team offering top dollar. Can see easily the San Francisco, San Diego, Mets, and New York offering $500 million. I agree. I just think ultimately the Dodgers ultimately get the deal done. Cruz is at the winter meetings. I've heard nothing about him. Do you see a fit? They were actually talking about that earlier. One of them predicted that the Mariners might be a good fit for a swan song for him. A DH spot in Texas might be a good fit as well. Go back to where he started his career, or well, not started his career, but started his major league impact anyway with the Rangers, where he really became an everyday player. But Cruz would be a nice DH, but he's certainly fallen off over the last year. I'm not sure he's got a lot left in the tank, so we're talking about probably an incentive-laden deal right now for Cruz, probably in the neighborhood of like $3 to $5 million guaranteed, with incentives that could make that deal worth anywhere between $12 to $15 million total. I read the Contreras article on trade rumors. Cardinals won't go 4 years. Astros might get him. I think he's going to get 5 years. I could have sworn I saw an article where the Cardinals were already at 5 years for Contreras, but I could be wrong. I know there was at least 5-year offers on the table for him. I wasn't sure if that was specifically referencing the contract offer from the Cardinals or from another team. Any new Giants news? Well, Mitch Haniger signed there, 3 years, $43.5 million. That's kind of the headline right now, currently out of the Giants. But they're heavily invested in the Aaron Judge sweepstakes, the shortstops out there, Senga market, and the Rodan market as well. Well, then you should have just said it attacking the dog when you asked for the time. Okay. Interesting. You're okay, Kenny. No worries. You're okay, Kenny. Prediction, Rodan, 6 years, $160 million. Accurate? Whew. That's a good question. At the beginning of this offseason, I would have told you 25-ish million might get it done for Rodan. After the DeGrom signing, I would have told you 28 million would get it done. After the Verlander signing, I would have told you 30 million gets it done. And it sounds like he's going to get a 5 to 6 year contract. 6 times 30 is going to be what, $180 million total. That seems a lot more likely as to what we could end up getting on the open market right now. That seems like a lot, but right now, for the most durable pitcher on the market that's left, especially with Senga never pitching a game in Major League Baseball, he could actually get that money. Do you think Otani gets dealt at the deadline? No. Even as a rental, I imagine whoever gets him as an ionic extending him would give up the farm. Exactly. But he's going to be also the ace coming into your team and the number one slugger coming in at the deadline. So he would command a big price at the deadline. I just think they're going to keep him until the sale is at least completed for the LA Angels. Love to see Cruz back in Texas as DH. I would love that as well. Cruz was one of my favorite players when he was on the Rangers. I would love to see him back to kind of wrap up his career. Yeah, I mean, it's a chat. Everything kind of gets mixed up and every now and again. It's okay, Kenny. Um, Jose, I get confused trying to read these comments because they're coming fast and furious, so I try to respond while you guys are typing more. Dave Dombrowski starting his own contract with a bang. Yes, he is. Remember, he did sign that extension at the beginning of the offseason. Now he's got 2 big free agents already under his belt, added a bullpen piece as well. Dombrowski's been busy here at the meetings. See if we get an update yet. Still nothing yet as far as contract terms for Taillon. Appreciate all you guys joining us right now. If you guys are just joining us for the first time, welcome to the Upside Sports Network. We cover Major League Baseball quite a bit right now with the winter meetings going on. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll keep you guys updated on anything that happens. We also cover the NBA, NFL, and the NHL as well. Let us know in the comments section what you think Aaron Judge is going to sign for. Right now, I think his market's getting up to that $400 million mark, and I think it's going to reach it easily. 10 years seems to be the mark, and then we might even see an option after that. But let us know what you think he's going to ultimately end up signing for. Rodan, what do you think he's going to get out there? He's the best starting pitcher on the market left. I think the shortstop market is way too difficult to figure out right now. We have to wait for that Judge signing first. Then we can see how things shift out as the teams that are interested in shortstops. If there's an opening for, Carlos Correa in New York if Judge leaves, or are the Giants going to try to shift their money to a guy like Correa? But there's a lot of interesting things that are going to happen over the next 24 hours, and yet we're still waiting for big trades to happen. I mean, it's 10:55 Central Time. It's 8:55 on the West Coast. Let's finally see some trades, shall we? I'm waiting to see some of these big trades happen, and yet we've gotten absolutely nothing. And we have gotten, some free agents to sign. Don't get me wrong, but I'm waiting for the trades to start coming in. Every winter meetings, there's always one or two big trades. Sometimes we see 5, 6, 7, but to have none at this point, and we're in day, we'll call it 2+ right now. A little bit surprising to say the least. I don't know Angels like throwing stupid contracts out, so they might just hit Otani with something ridiculous. Yeah, but he wants to win. That's why he came over to the Angels in the first place, because they had a promising roster, best player in the game in Mike Trout. He wants to win, and if the Angels don't make the postseason, which they're not making it this year, barring some significant changes to that roster, I just don't think that the Angels are going to be able to hold on to him. I think the Twins' strategy of waiting for a decision on Correa before committing to another moves will blow up in their face. That could very well happen. That's what happens with small market teams. Minnesota, went out last year and got the big free agent for the first time. Were unable to make the postseason. Struggled in the second half, even after investing at the trade deadline in a bullpen arm, in a starting pitcher. They did great things at the deadline and then just completely fell on their face in the second half of the year. Carlos Correa played fantastic for them for the majority of the year as well. If they don't get Correa, it's said that they're interested in Carlos Rodan, shifting that money around. And then, of course, the Luis Arraez trade rumor from yesterday about them possibly moving him for a top-level, ace-level pitcher. We'll see how things work out for the Twins. Judge, 10 years, $410 million from the Giants. That's a good, very good guess. Right around mine as well. I love those trades no one saw coming. Waiting for a random blockbuster. Exactly. Can we get someone to make a trade at some point? Come on. I just joined a little bit and trying to listen to any updates, and so far you're doing a great job, dude. Thank you. Definitely subscribing. Leaving a like now. Thank you. Thank you, Kenny. I really appreciate the help, and for those of you who subscribed over the last 24, 48 hours, thank you so much for making it worth it. Really does help us out trying to make this thing work and trying to make a go of it here at the Upside. So make sure you join us. Hit that like and subscribe if you don't mind. Welcome in, Houston. Welcome in, Dave, I guess, from Houston. Going to take a wild guess and say you're an Astros fan. Welcome in. Could a blockbuster trade go down tomorrow? Well, I would have thought there would have been one today, but yet we still have nothing. Hopefully we get some trades at some point. That's what part of the winter meetings are. But I don't know. Maybe teams are trying to keep their rosters set before they go after the Rule 5 guys. Who knows? What about Justin Turner? Do you think the Dodgers bring him back? I do. I think they'll give him like a sweetheart deal somewhere in the $10 to $15 million range per year. Talking Rangers pitching back or bringing back Mike Maddox, a good move. Maybe getting them back to 10-11 form. Absolutely, and it doesn't hurt that you bring in Jacob deGrom, Andrew Heaney, and I imagine a closer is going to be on this roster as well. Maddox and Bochy are going to be able to handle the pieces they had already in place significantly better than Chris Woodward did last year. I mean, the way they used that bullpen last year is the precise reason why Chris Woodward is out. I mean, look at the game that Dennis Santana came in after pitching 4 straight days. They called on him when he literally had nothing in the tank. He told his manager before the game, hey, I literally have nothing. My arm is jello. If you need me to throw, I'll throw, but I'm not going to be very effective. And Chris Woodward put him out there and left him in the game to give up 7 runs. That's the reason why they fired him. So you can check out that back page story from the Rangers from last year if you want. But Bochy and Maddox should significantly improve the Rangers pitching just from the 2 of them being in. But yeah, it's finally here. The winter meetings are here. Hot stove is hot. A lot of free agents are signing. But I'm still waiting for some trades to finally happen. And, of course, the big fish, Aaron Judge, hopefully signs within the next 24 hours. Pretty much here just waiting on updates for the Yankees. Welcome in. Thank you for the subscription there, Sub-Zero. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Judge jerseys are on sale for 60% off right now. Really? Do they know something we don't? Or is it just Judge jerseys, or is it jerseys in general that are 60% off? That's an interesting one. Any trades the Yankees are looking into right now, I'd love to hear it. They were interested in bringing Pablo Lopez over at the deadline. I imagine they're still going to be interested in bringing him in, whether or not they bring back Aaron Judge or not. As far as free agents, of course, Carlos Rodan right now is the top free agent on the board as far as starting pitchers. They've had conversations with him. Yesterday it was reported the Yankees were most heavily interested in bringing him in. If they don't spend the money on Judge, maybe they pivot and spend that money on Rodan or a Correa. But those are kind of your trade possibilities. They're expected to trade one of their middle infielders as well, Torres, IKF, whoever it may end up being. But they're expected to trade a middle infielder as well. AL West and the NL East will be competitive in 2023. Yes, they most certainly will. Judge to Tigers for all the pizza he can eat. That's a funny one, Rob. No. 10 years and a lifetime supply of pizza for Judge in San Francisco. Yeah, San Francisco does have a good food scene there, by the way. Not saying that Detroit doesn't, but San Francisco is known for their food scene as well. And I'm sure if it was part of the deal or something to kind of push it over the top, I'm sure the Giants would do whatever is necessary to bring him in. Welcome in, Spencer. What do you see the Jays doing? Got a lot of you Jays fans in here right now. But as far as the Jays, they're going to look for a number 5 starter. They're looking at bullpen. They're also looking to trade one of their catchers and clear out that log jam. They're also looking for left-handed hitting outfielders. They're looking at Benintendi. They're looking at Nimmo. If I'm a Blue Jays fan, I'm hoping they land Brendan Nimmo, put him in center, flex Springer over to right field, something like that, and lengthen out Springer's career, because if he continues to get hurt in center field, that's more worrying, especially considering the contract that he signed coming over from the Houston Astros. Judge, Cincinnati Red, no, that's not going to happen. Heard Pablo Lopez's name connected to Texas as well. I wouldn't put too much faith in that rumor, especially with the signing of Andrew Heaney. Chris Young is attacking pitching a little bit differently than the Rangers have in the past with John Daniels. Apparently he sees different trends right now in the game, strikeout rate, those kinds of things. DeGrom and Heaney at the top, very top of the game right now as far as strikeout pitchers, and that seems to be the route they're going. Pablo Lopez is not on that list and doesn't necessarily fit what the Rangers are doing right now as far as what types of areas they're looking to improve, what areas of success that they're looking for. Welcome. Thank you for the subscribe there, Jason. Appreciate that. Haven't seen you comment, but really do appreciate the subscribe. Thank you very much. Welcome in, Vinny. Appreciate you for joining us. Mets do need to bring in bullpen help, absolutely. Dombrowski for mayor of the city in Philadelphia. I think you might have competition there with Jalen Hurts. Biggest offseason sign for the Yankees has been Cashman so far. Where do you have Senga going? Very difficult to read his market. It sounds like he's got offers well north of $20 million a year. He's got contract offers in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 years as well. I'm curious to see where he does go. But if I had to guess, the Cubs need starting pitching. I would say they're a very serious suitor for him. The Mets as well. The Blue Jays are heavily interested in bringing him in. Thank you for the compliment there, Chicago. Yeah, between my last live earlier today, I did get a nice little haircut there, shaved it all off, etc. The razor actually broke in the middle of me doing it, though, so I had to repair it. That's why it took me so long to get back live, so I appreciate you guys' patience with us. Technically, it's Wednesday in Ontario now, so let's get some news. Exactly. I mean, it's after 11 o'clock now here in the Central Time Zone. Trending up are the Mets, Rangers, and Phillies. I'll agree with that. I'd say the Rangers, most certainly, they've got a lot better rotation now than they did this time last year. Mets right now are kind of neutral in my opinion. They need to make some improvements, though. They need to bring back Nimmo. They still need to make additions to that roster. They need to fill out that rotation. But right now, at least they're having a good offseason so far. I wouldn't say it's great, though. Rangers reporters indeed saying they're still looking at starting pitchers, so don't take them out of that starting pitcher mix, I guess. Interesting. That coming from Evan Grant. Very interesting there. I do like to hear it, though. Their issue for the years has been their starting staff, and if they can solve that issue, that would be looking good for them. Appreciate all 80 of you guys in our chat right now. Thank you guys for subscribing. Really appreciate that, and thank you for the like there. Appreciate that as well. Let me update some of these pages to see if we're getting anything else. More news from the Chicago Cubs. They're having discussions with Dominic Smith. Good buy low candidate there. Could platoon there at first base. If he gets back to his 2020 numbers, then they could have something. But again, Cubs taking a lot of risks on free agents right now with Cody Bellinger and possibly Dom Smith here. Jameson Taillon due to injuries is a risk as well. Cubs being a little bit aggressive with guys who have risks due to performance or injury. Yankees need pitchers, starting pitchers, closer, outfield, and infield help. Infield, not so much. They have a glut of middle infielders. I think they could use, a top-end piece like a Carlos Correa. If they do that, then yes, I agree they could flip out some of those, assets to solve some of those other issues. Interesting that the Cubs are taking advantage of non-tenders from the Dodgers and Mets. Cody Bellinger non-tendered from the Dodgers. Dom Smith non-tendered from the Mets. Trade rumors updates. That's pretty much what I just checked on anyway. I haven't seen anything yet. But yeah, glad the Rangers are finally willing to spend money over the last 2 years. They're certainly doing things very differently than they ever have under John Daniels. And boy, oh boy, are things working out so far. There you go, Jason. Appreciate you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing earlier, by the way. Braves have not done much. Why do they need a catcher? Well, I think it's their way of improving the team, much like they did last year with Matt Olson, filling in for Freddie Freeman before they lost Freddie Freeman. I think getting a catcher like Sean Murphy would improve their position behind the plate. Not that they need to, but it definitely would be a step up. I do think Sean Murphy is definitely in the top 10 as far as catchers in the game right now. Maybe even top 5. I could hear an argument about that, but 3 years left to control there. And if they lose Dansby Swanson, I think their reason for doing the trade for Murphy anyway would be to replace that production in the lineup and try to keep that team as constantly successful as possible all across the board. They'd probably have Vaughn Grissom be their shortstop next year and see if he can handle it defensively. Ron Washington, a wizard with coaching defense up the middle, turned Marcus Semien, who was a error machine, into a very productive shortstop and a second baseman. Just look at his error numbers from his first season and then the growth he had with Ron Washington, showing him how to play the position. If he thinks Vaughn Grissom can play shortstop, I believe Vaughn Grissom can play shortstop. Mets kind of quiet. I don't know how quiet they actually are. I mean, they've got their nose in, or they've got their hands in a whole bunch of different cookie jars. We'll see where which pieces they end up getting. Welcome in, Rob. We got a lot of Jays guys in here right now. I think that's like the 6th or 7th time since we started this live somebody's asked for Jays, but I'll go over it once more. The Jays were in there for a couple of different starting pitchers. They were in there for Verlander, in there for Heaney. Both of those go elsewhere. They're still in there for Senga. Maybe they land him. As far as outfielders, they're still in there for Benintendi and Nimmo. We'll see which left-hander they end up getting. They're still out there looking for relief pitching as well. Do you think Beatty, Alvarez start the year at the major league level? If Beatty plays every day, Escobar, Vogie can split DH. I think the Mets are going to be able to bring in a DH, possibly J.D. Martinez. I haven't heard his name connected there yet, but we heard his name be connected there at the trade deadline. I wonder if they end up cycling back to him after this market kind of dies down a little bit. As far as a third baseman, I think they could trade Escobar and possibly add a third baseman somewhere, maybe even start Beatty at the major league level. But I guess you're talking about Vogelbach there, but I do think they're going to make some moves. To me, it doesn't matter how many jars the Jays have their hands in. It's what they get. Exactly. I mean, the Rangers for years have tried and tried and tried to get starting pitchers. This is the first couple of years that they've had success in the starting pitching market, and through the free agent market anyway. They've done it through trade, but never through the free agent market. So a little bit different. Both of their catchers were all-stars last year. That's why I'm wondering. True, but again, Sean Murphy, I think, is that good of a catcher. That's all I'm saying. Whether it's an incremental improvement or a vast improvement, Braves just trying to get the best they can at each position. And then, of course, they could turn around and trade Contreras themselves to somebody else to fill another hole or to get other prospects because their prospect system isn't as good as it used to be. So maybe they turn and trade those other catchers for other pieces. But there's nothing to say that they'll end up getting Sean Murphy. Alex Anthopoulos, when the report came out from Feinsand, literally got a hold of Feinsand and said, no, we are not close to a deal for Sean Murphy. Retract that, and that's exactly what he did. Rob, you're hoping for Senga and Nimmo to the Blue Jays. I think that would certainly lock up the division for them, I believe, if they were to add both of those pieces. But I do think they need to add some depth in that bullpen more than anything else right now. They have some good options in that starting staff. Most of those starters in that staff had poor years, much like the White Sox. I think both staffs are going to pitch much better this year and are going to see a much improved team because of that performance coming back to the mean, if you will. Let me just update everything, just see if anything's happened yet with Taillon, see if we got a deal yet. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of shows outside of the actual network that try to cover the Major League Baseball winter meetings. I try to keep you guys as informed as I possibly can. And, I mean, I've been following sports since I was, I don't know, 2. I remember one of the first books I actually read, aside from like children's books, was a ESPN stats book. It was a sports almanac this thick. I literally went through it page by page by page, looking over numbers. I was, I don't know, 5 at the time. So, been very interested in sports ever since. Got a very good understanding of baseball. Hockey's my favorite sport to watch and enjoy. Love watching hockey live. Basketball is up there for me as well. Love the NBA. Luka Doncic's going to be the MVP this year. Mark it down in your book. And the NFL, of course, is the NFL, but they're my 4th favorite sport. Just because I just there's too much of it in the national media sometimes. I just get tired of hearing it. And even as a Cowboys fan, I really get tired of hearing all the either A, the supporters of the Cowboys just obnoxiously calling for Super Bowl year after year after year, or people who can't stand the same fans I can't stand and saying, the Cowboys are trash and Jerry Jones this. So I get very worn out on NFL talk very quickly. They have some depth in the Hernandez trade. Again, the Hernandez trade, the Teoscar Hernandez trade, I think they could have done better than getting a bullpen option that, again, bullpen guys are usually mercurial. 1 year's great, 1 year's not, another year's great, another year's not. There's no real way of predicting how they're going to perform. Of course, they did get a little bit of depth, but I would rather have had the bat of Teoscar Hernandez. Even if I needed to do another move to make my lineup a little bit more left-handed, I wouldn't have given up on the bat. Now, if you're telling me that they weren't willing to re-sign him after the 1-year deal, then why did you hang on to him this long? You should have traded him before when he had more value, contract length, etc. You know, that's the issue I have with the Hernandez trade. Any updates on the Yankees re-signing Benintendi, or are they still interested in a trade with Brian Reynolds? Any updates on that? They are very interested in Brian Reynolds. They have not had many negotiations with Andrew Benintendi. However, they are looking for a contact-hitting outfielder. So Benintendi is still on their radar, but they are looking at Brian Reynolds, and they're also looking at Yoshida more than anybody else. He's the guy coming over from the NPB, more of a contact hitter guy, has seen his power numbers increase in each of the last 4 years as well. So maybe the Yankees are able to get him. Maybe they're able to hang on to Judge, and they could have something out there in their outfield next year. But remember, they still have Harrison Bader, Aaron Hicks, Giancarlo Stanton, all out there in the outfield as well. So it's a very crowded group. We'll see if they make any moves. It's been difficult to find a live stream that isn't 100% Yankees or Mets. Yeah. That's another thing I can't stand watching on YouTube is live streams that are strictly dealing with one specific team. Now, eventually, I'm hoping to be able to diversify this channel like I see other sports sites doing, but that will be a specific channel dedicated to that team. It will not take over this entire site. I'll put it that way. Just logged on. What do you think of Taillon going to the Cubs? I think it's a good get for the Cubs, depending on the contract. I'm guessing it's a little bit more than what Walker's going to get. which is very rich deal for both of them, honestly. I think you're going to get a 4-year, $80 million contract for Taillon to the Cubs. If it's less than that, great for the Cubs. If it's more than that, what are you doing? But they need starting pitching bad, and they have to start somewhere. They're going after a couple of non-tender candidates anyway, from Cody Bellinger from the Dodgers and Dominic Smith from the Mets. So, again, going after some high-risk guys, poor performance guys in Bellinger and Smith, and then going for an injury guy who's had injury issues in the past in Taillon. Me to the Leafs. Okay, Leafs are your team. My team's the Dallas Stars. Down here in Texas, it's definitely a growing sport. It's not nearly as laughable to think that there are teams down here, or there's not enough support down here in Texas. In fact, I think the fourth biggest city in the United States, the Houston, Texas anyway, I wonder why they don't have a team yet. I think they should easily be able to handle a NHL hockey team. Who do I follow teams-wise? Well, I live in Texas, so of course the Dallas area teams. Stars are my favorite hockey team, but again, I'm from the South Dakota area, so the Minnesota teams were, of course, my favorite as well. So I would say it's the Stars and the Wild to a certain extent in hockey. For baseball, of course, the Texas Rangers. Grew up with the Braves on TV. The Twins. Grew up a little bit of a Cubs fan as well. As far as basketball, definitely a Dallas Mavericks fan. Minnesota Timberwolves to a certain extent. Boston Celtics when they had KG after he was traded there from the Minnesota Timberwolves as well. And then as far as football, of course, the Cowboys, but Vikings as well. Packers when they had Favre. Kansas City Chiefs before they got Patrick Mahomes. I liked them all the way back to the days of Priest Holmes and Larry Johnson, those types of teams. Trent Green, Dick Vermeil. The New York Jets back when they had Vinny Testaverde, Wayne Corbett, Curtis Martin. The Jacksonville Jaguars back when they had Mark Brunell, Fred Taylor, Jimmy Smith. Actually, at work, somebody was a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and he was wearing a Jacksonville Jaguars mask. And I said, "Hey, you a Jaguars fan? That's cool." And I brought up Mark Brunell and Fred Taylor and got to a chat about that. That was a pretty cool conversation. He came back a week later and actually gave me a mask back when everybody was wearing masks. I don't know how cheap those masks were, but I'm sure it wasn't $5. Hold on. Saw a whole bunch of comments there. Reynolds is going to require a massive haul. No, he is not. He's going to require probably 2 good prospects and maybe 1 more filler prospect. It's not going to be a massive haul. In case you guys are wondering, check out baseballtradevalues.com as far as, telling it, or so that way you can figure out what the trade value is of a certain player. Reynolds is not nearly as high as you would think. I'd love to see Gausman, a rotation next season that includes Manoah, Gausman, Rodan, Senga, and Barrios. I mean, where are you going to put, what's his name? I can see his face. Ryu in that rotation. I'm not sure if he's going to be healthy enough, of course, but that would be a great rotation, Rob. Do you think the Dodgers management is aiming to do a soft reset? No. Going under the luxury tax limit for a year to give them a better chance to sign Otani in 2023. Friedman said something similar. I don't think it's a reset. I think it's strictly going underneath the luxury tax bill just to kind of reset their figure, if you will. But they're not going to reset from an organizational standpoint as far as competitiveness. Favorite MLB team, Rangers. We shut them out tonight. Well, I mean, Ottinger's been struggling since he got back from injury. And, yeah, I mean, got Marner who's going off right now. Robertson was going off for us until this game. Welcome back, MVP. Appreciate you joining us. I know a lot of people are sending me messages, so I probably missed you talking about Rodan. So where do the Yankees stand on trying to get Rodan? Yesterday, the Yankees were said to be the most aggressive team negotiating with Rodon's camp. I imagine that's still very similarly the case, just because I think they're trying to look at backup plans in case Judge doesn't sign. And even if he does, they still need to add some starting pitching. I'm curious to see if they're willing to go that level of money for Rodan if they don't land if they do land Aaron Judge. Yankees need to concentrate on Judge first. Yes, they absolutely do. And what do you think, or do you have any updates on the Yankees going after the Japanese pitchers, Kodai Senga? I think they're pretty much out on Kodai Senga at this point. I think they're more looking at the NPB product, Yoshida, coming over, the contact hitter. And, that's where I think the Yankees are focusing their attention as far as international prospects, if you will. Jays could get Reynolds pretty easy. Yes, they could. Everybody thinks his price is through the roof. It's not that high. Has Aaron Judge signed yet? No, he has not. Hopefully tonight or early tomorrow morning. Also, what do you think of the Cubs signing Belly? 1 year is a good investment for any team on any contract. 1 year at $17.5 million is still a considerable amount of money. I'm not sure it's a great investment. Again, poor performance for 3 consecutive years. He's only 27, so maybe there's still some faith that a change of scenery might do him some good. And if he gets back to a somewhat productive hitter, you could really have something if he gets back to MVP level, which I do not see ever happening again. But if it does, the Cubs could really be in there and pushing for a wild card spot, but I don't see it happening. They're taking a lot of risks in free agency right now. They're said to be wanting to compete next year. They've been giving the green light by ownership to invest in this team however they see fit, and they're going for cheaper options as far as 1 year short-term deals. I wonder if they should be investing in bigger term contracts like Rodan or a Senga, those type of pieces. Not to say they're out on those players, but I think that's where they should be investing their money primarily, rather than investing the money here on Bellinger and then saying, well, we've already spent $17 million. Can we really spend another $20 on Kodai Senga? Yes, you absolutely should. Does MLB Network have all-day live coverage from the winter meetings? Is it live right now? I'm not sure if they're live right now. They're usually live from 10 a.m. right now because it's on the West Coast until 9 or 10 o'clock. I believe this is a rerun they're airing right now. I heard it's down to the Jays and Angels for Senga. I haven't heard that. I've heard it's down to like 6 teams for Senga. Mets, Cubs, Rangers are supposedly still in there for starting pitching. I don't know if they're willing to go to that level, though. The Rangers do have the 4th pick in the draft. What do the Rangers look at? If I'm the Rangers, I take best player available. Best player available, best player available. I mean, you're going to lose a draft pick for the Jacob deGrom signing. If you add another qualifying offer guy, you lose another one. But that worked. Their strategy last year worked pretty well, getting in the best pitcher in the entire draft in Brock Porter. And then, of course, their guy that they liked at the very top, Kumar Rocker, on a big discount. Considering they didn't have a 2nd or a 3rd round pick, that's just great drafting by the Texas Rangers. Vientos, Mangum, Matt Allen for Reynolds. That might be enough to get it done. I'm not sure if it's too much, but it might be enough for the Pirates to be able to say yes on that type of a deal. I'm not sure it's the prospect type that they're looking for, though, with Vientos being the headliner of that package, but we'll see how things go. There's a Japanese outfielder, I can't remember his name, but the Jays need to take a hard look at him because he's center fielder, 22 home runs. That's the Yoshida guy I was telling you about. I don't think that's his name. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering it, but that's what I'm calling him for the time being. Where did Haniger sign? He signed with the San Francisco Giants, 3 years, $43.5 million. Opt out after the 2nd year. They're said to be looking for 2 outfielders, so this does not preclude them from signing a guy like Aaron Judge. This does mean that if they do bring in Aaron Judge, Jock Peterson anyway probably is your DH the majority of the time there in San Francisco. As far as the Phillies, they do sign Taijuan Walker. They signed him to a 4-year deal, $72 million total, $18 million in average annual value. Still waiting on the terms for Jameson Taillon, but he seems to be close to signing with the Chicago Cubs. We'll probably stick around with you guys for another 15, 20 minutes or so. It's 11:23 here Central Time. If something does happen in the late night hours here, we'll be sure to go right back live again. But send us your questions. We'll be happy to answer anything you got. We'll stick with you guys for a little while longer. Maybe the Jays could get both in one shot. That would be an interesting thing. Jays need to make some improvements, but I think they're going to be right at the top of the division. No matter which way they slice it this year, I think that rotation is going to pitch much better than they did last year. Most of that rotation had career worst numbers there. Yeah, Yoshida. Thank you, Paul. Really appreciate that. I'm terrible with names sometimes and with pronunciations, but I guess I was getting it right. Masataka Yoshida. What about the D-backs? They're said to be interested in bringing in Xander Bogaerts. Xander Bogaerts has a lot of connections there with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Mike Hazen, their GM, of course, was there when he was with the Red Sox. and signed him as a 16-year-old kid. So a lot of familiarity there. I don't think Bogaerts is going to go back to Boston. They haven't even spoken in a week. He's spoken to over 10 teams since the last time he spoke with the Red Sox. Tells you pretty much tells you exactly what the Red Sox are really interested in bringing in. Welcome in, Peter. Thank you guys for joining us. We got like 70 of you guys with us right now. We've stayed pretty strong around that number today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really does help us out. I noticed we've gained quite a few subscribers during this live. For those of you who have, thank you. Phillies World Series champs. They do have a really good GM. He's absolutely terrible for your minor league team. He absolutely guts it. But he's more than willing to go out there and get the job done to get you to a World Series, do everything he can to try to win a World Series. They get to the World Series last year. They make the improvement of bringing in Trey Turner. They have the injury, of course, to Bryce Harper to deal with throughout the season. They add Taijuan Walker. I think they still need to add one more starting pitcher and, of course, a couple more bullpen pieces. But a great start here to the offseason for Dave Dombrowski. Seeing what players are signing for it really makes me wonder what Jock would have gotten if he didn't accept the qualifying offer. I think he probably would have signed a 3-year, $15 million average annual value contract at best. Probably signs for even less because he's only good against right-handed pitching at this point in his career. And so he's going to be good for about 450 plate appearances. Don't get me wrong. Has a lot of power. But I think he did wisely by signing that qualifying offer. That way next year when he enters the market, he doesn't have the draft pick compensation attached to him. So teams will be able to bid whatever they want for him next year. You do amazing live chats. Thank you. I notice you engage your viewers. I try. If you guys want to chat with me, I'll chat with you. So if you guys have questions, want to talk about your team, feel free. Welcome back, Falcon. I just saw your comment anyway. Any word on Contreras and Murphy? Contreras is the favorite to go to the St. Louis Cardinals anyway. Murphy is still a trade candidate. I'd imagine the Guardians turn their attention to him after signing Josh Bell today. So I heard that for the NFL that the Falcons, I guess, are trying to land Lamar Jackson in Atlanta would be a good move for them. Absolutely. I mean, Marcus Mariota on one hand, Ritter, whoever you want to say for their quarterback, or Lamar Jackson. Which would you say is better? Lamar Jackson. Come on, man. Do I think that they could sign him? I think they very well could. They saved a lot of money over the past year or so. They have a ton of cap space next year. Any good Rule 5 picks for the Tigers? Ooh. Okay, so I follow the Rangers pretty closely. I know their minor league system fairly well. I know there's a lot of good Rule 5 eligible talent from other teams, but the Rangers left a couple of starting pitchers out there, as well as a couple of good relievers that could make the Major League roster for the Tigers next year. So if you guys are looking for a Rule 5 pick, you can check that out. I want to say one of them is England, Eichert, something. It starts with an E anyway. Mason Eichert, England, something like that is his name. Mason something. But that's a name I expect to be drafted during the Rule 5 draft tomorrow. Peter, the owner, I want to win, so has an endless checkbook. Okay. I would like to see Lamar go to Texas. If that's so, he raves about it. Going to trade him. To Texans. Okay. I'm not sure that the Houston Texans would bring in Lamar Jackson. MVP, every time I hear that name, LeVar, it reminds me of Revenge of the Nerds. Okay. I would be okay with Stripling coming back as a number 5 option for the Jays rotation. That would make some sense. Texans are horrible. They need everything from a new owner to a new mascot to new cheerleaders. Texans aren't that bad. They've changed that organization over in the last couple of years. They're still trying to get the stink of O'Brien out of their way, and so it's been an ongoing process. Lamar to Giants would be would come to the Big Apple with Saquon. I'm not sure they're going to be able to afford him. Sorry. I think that the Detroit Lions might be a sneaky team for him. He said he was interested in going there this past season, so maybe the Detroit Lions will be the fit for Lamar Jackson if he doesn't stay in Baltimore. But appreciate you guys joining us. Got about 85 viewers right now with us. We'll stick with you guys here for about another 10-15 minutes. Send us your comments. Be more than happy to answer any questions. Just waiting for the Jameson Taillon news to actually break. Maybe we'll even get the Aaron Judge contract, but nothing as of yet. News out of the Red Sox is that they're looking at catching upgrades. Christian Vasquez is an option to come back, Wilson Contreras is not. Mike Zunino, who missed a lot of time due to injury last year with the Rays, is also on their radar. The Red Sox are open to moving one of their own catchers, Reese McGuire, who they just acquired from the White Sox this past season, and Connor Wong. Shane Victorino was a Rule 5 pick of the Phillies. They got him from the Dodgers. Yeah, there's a lot of good Rule 5 people out there every single year. How about Jansen to the bullpen next to Romano? I mean, we've only heard Kenley Jansen's name really connected to the NL West and the AL West. We haven't really seen his name connected to any of the teams out in the East Coast. I wonder where he'll end up. I wonder if he's still viewed as a closer at this point, but his numbers are starting to diminish a little bit. He's still very effective, but he's starting to drop off a little bit in performance. I wonder if we're starting to see the end or the beginning of the end for him in the majors. But he still pitched to like a 3-point-something ERA last year with the Braves. They brought the Raisel Iglesias in from the Angels at the trade deadline last year. He's got 3 years left on his deal with a lot of money tied in. That's why they're not bringing back Kenley Jansen. Maybe there's a fit there with the Dodgers going back there and just wrapping it up there, since they do have a need for a closer and some back-end bullpen help. They have $100+ million to spend this offseason. Well, I don't know. Almost to 1,100 subscribers. I haven't taken a look. Let me just see where we're at. Seen a lot of people subscribe today, but let me see where our new numbers are at. Wow, we are close. We've gained almost 40 in this live. That's fantastic. Thank you guys. That's really helpful. Thank you guys. Mark, thanks for updating me. That makes my day right there. We crossed the 1,000 yesterday, I believe, or Sunday anyway. We crossed the 1,050 anyway yesterday. Now we're crossing the 1,100 mark. Thank you guys for making this so much fun for us. Again, we don't make money at this yet. Now that we've crossed the 1,000 mark, though, we are in the review process to be able to do this for you guys full time. So thank you guys for making this possible. Really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow. All right. This year's quarterback draft class is not that impressive. Well, it's better than last year. I'll put it that way. Jays Nation, who do the Jays end up getting to start? You want me to start a poll for it? Well, I'm in a streaming service right now. I don't think I can. But if I were to say who do the Jays end up with, let's just start with the outfielders. You can message in the chat, who you think it's going to be. Let's just see who the Jays are going to end up with. Appreciate that, MVP. Thank you, thank you. But as far as a poll for the outfielders, who do you think they're going to get? Nimmo, Benintendi, or Reynolds? Those would be the 3 I would put as most likely as far as left-handed outfielders that could come in to the Jays. Which one do you think they're going to get? If I were voting, I would probably say I think they need Brandon Nimmo the most out of the teams not named the New York Mets. The Giants could make an argument for that, and if the Yankees lose out on Judge, the Yankees make an argument. But I think Nimmo is most likely to the Jays. They have the financial wherewithal to make big contracts work. They were in there for Verlander. They're in there for Rodan at some level. They're in there for Senga. If they get Senga, I wonder how it will end up working. The San Diego Padres and free agent Carlos Correa have gained traction the last 24 hours. This comes after they offered 3 for 342. That would be very interesting. Correa would solve their need for a shortstop. Maybe they turn around and flip Fernando Tatis Jr. For some prospects, maybe an outfielder as well. But the Padres making some moves, that would be a very interesting addition to their team. I don't see anything on the rumors about it. Let me check, or Twitter anyway. Let me check with MLBTradeRumors.com. Nothing there, but if that's true, if Carlos Correa ends up with the Padres, I mean, the market's going to go through the roof for Xander Bogaerts and Dansby Swanson. Got a question I heard in the OBS, that good beginner stream app. Do you know or heard of it? Well, I use Streamlabs. That's kind of the animation you can see. I picked out one of them that I really liked that worked with the logo that I had created and the animation that I had at the beginning. And Streamlabs is what I use. Jays will get Benintendi and maybe Smiley or Wade Miley, unfortunately. I think they're going to be able to do a little bit better than that as far as a starting pitcher. Ross Stripling makes some sense, at least as a little bit better of an option, but I think they're really going to be in there for Senga. Um, I would be very happy if I was a Jays fan if they walk away with Nimmo and Senga. I think that's probably a plan A type of offseason for you guys if you're a Blue Jays fan. Now, of course, you still have to address that bullpen. I'm curious to see who they end up bringing in to make that setup a little bit better, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you. Yeah, I really like that animation. I mean, I was very surprised how good it was when I got it, and it's fantastic. I really enjoy it, and it fits really well. The music is authentic to it as well. Even before I do my animation, you hear that looped music at the very beginning. My friend created only like an 18-second little sound for me to have when I first started out my YouTube channel, just for when I was transitioning between my longer 10-minute long videos I would post back then. Don't do that anymore. I might return to that now that I'm over the 1,000, but that's the music that you hear back there. I'm not sure if he's watching right now, but Isaac, good job creating that music out there. Put it on the loop at the beginning, so for when you see the stream starting soon, that's the sound you hear, so you guys can rewind all the way back to the beginning to hear that music from him. I think he actually has his own YouTube. I can't remember his channel, though, off the top of my head. But just wanted to give him a shout out there. Kikuchi to the bullpen. That might make some sense for the Jays anyway. But it's 11:36 Central Time. We're still going pretty strong here with y'all. Having a lot of fun with our conversation. If you guys want to send us any comments, any questions, NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, feel free. Waiting for that Jameson Taillon contract to get done. I imagine that's going to get done tonight. If it does get done here, I'll probably come back on live again. But see if we're over that 1,000 subscribers. We're one subscriber away from 1,100 subscribers. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please do. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much. After they sign Senga and another starter, Rodan, damn, would be nice. Yeah, if they were to sign both of them, which I doubt it, because again, they're only looking for one more starter in that staff. They have 4 good starters. They just had poor performances last year. I think the Jays are going to be much better just with positive regression back to the mean. If you catch my drift there, Spencer, what's your favorite NHL team? The Dallas Stars. I am down in Dallas, or the Dallas area. I'm about an hour and a half away from Dallas, so the Stars are certainly my team. I think they actually have a real chance this year now that they have got a goalie that we like. Not that he's performing his best right now. Opened up the season acting like a Vezina favorite, and then got injured and is still working his way back. Has had some illnesses as well. Thank you, MVP. Appreciate that. And we have crossed the barrier, 1,100 subscribers. Thank you very much. I appreciate that very much. You guys have made this a lot of fun, and I really do appreciate all the support we've gained over the last, year now? We've been doing it for literally 1 year and 9 days. We started this channel November 27th of last year, and we've come quite a ways anyway. Really appreciate all the support. Let's see how high we can get that subscriber count before the end of the winter meetings, and see if we can get this channel to really take off. But I really appreciate all the support, and thank you guys for making this so much fun. Thank you. Thank you. Did I hear DeGrom is being introduced at Globe Life tomorrow? I'm not sure when he's being introduced specifically. I do know that they do have a to-be-determined bobblehead night in August 4th against the Marlins, home game on a Friday night. I bought tickets ahead of time knowing that was likely going to be one of the free agent starting pitchers that they would sign to make that bobblehead. I'm really hoping that's Jacob deGrom bobblehead night, so that's what I'm hoping for. I bet in the next couple of weeks we see Luke Shen back with the Leafs. They've had a patchwork group back there on the defense for the better part of a month now. They've kind of had injury issues in net, but both goaltenders have performed well when back there. But neither one of them has been able to prove that they can stay healthy. And I wonder if they end up making a trade for A, defenseman, and B, maybe a goaltender that's not as often injured. I'll put it that way. But yeah, the Leafs did get a huge win over my Stars today. I don't remember if the game was in Dallas or in Toronto, but Good win either way for the Leafs. Another bullpen piece, Pearson. I think that's more of a trade piece for you, is Pearson at this point. Thursday he'll be introduced. Okay. Thank you, JG. You guys are very helpful, Mark, JG. Those of you guys who provide a lot of that information in there as we are live, I really appreciate it. Helps us stay updated and stay current. I'm constantly refreshing my Twitter page just to see if we get some contract news from Jameson Taillon or Aaron Judge, but so far nothing. Man, if I was a left-handed hitter and I was struggling, I would want to go to the Yankees. It would be a great ballpark to get your swing back, especially with that right field porch. That and Houston. Houston's got a very short right field area as well. Then, of course, they have the Crawford boxes on the left side if you're late on your swing. Now, it's very deep out to center, but not as deep as it used to be. They no longer have that hill out there in center. But it's now got that batter's eye out there that they deal with. So tomorrow is the last day of the winter meetings. Usually it runs through Thursday. That's what I'm off through anyway, so I'll be live through you guys throughout the process there. What do you think the Jays do if the Yankees do if Judge leaves? I think they're going to have absolute chaos there in New York. The fan base is just going to have. They're going to be calling for somebody's head, and they will get someone's head to roll. My guess is an assistant GM probably will be the sacrificial lamb, but we'll see how things end up going. Just saw something pop up on Twitter. Nope. Old news. Thank you guys for subscribing. Gained 4 more. Appreciate that. I think New York fans, a couple of them will probably cry if they lose Aaron Judge. He is that big of a star for that team, means a lot to that team, means a lot to that fan base. And as interesting as it would be from a sports storytelling perspective, it's much more fascinating for Judge to leave the Yankees than it is for him to go back. But even if he does go back, there's still some question marks for the Yankees as to what they do. But if he leaves, the Yankees, I think, are probably one of the bottom 2 teams in the AL East, even if they are able to bring in a couple of pieces. Remember, last year they struggled to hang on to the division after their big lead they got out to in the first couple of months. Had a starter's ERA over 4.5 from June on. They need to address that starting staff. They need to address their ability to get on base in front of their power hitters. They need to address their middle infield situation. Maybe they bring in Carlos Correa and then trade Volpe for some starting pitching. Who knows which way they end up going, but there will be absolute chaos, some out-of-nowhere trades for the Yankees if Judge does not go back to the Yanks. I mean, I know everybody's waiting to see Aaron Judge is going to do first, but I have to ask these other questions because I'm curious if you know something I don't about other players coming to the Yankees. We've talked about Pablo Lopez in the past. We've talked about Carlos Rodan. We've talked about Carlos Correa, Yoshida, Benintendi. Those are kind of the names right now for the Yanks, as well as Senga to a very small degree. But I think they're pretty much out on him. Bring him to Toronto. I'm down. Okay. Do you think the Yankees are really interested in adding a quality shortstop? Only if they lose Aaron Judge. I think that's the only way they salvage their offseason anyway from a fan's perspective. Then they trade Volpe and Peraza and say, hey, Judge made his decision. We tried to bring him back. We did everything we could, but ultimately decided to go to the Giants. So we went ahead and added, some star power at the top of our lineup anyway with Carlos Correa. Now we have these pieces in Volpe and Peraza to trade. Now we can add another star in the outfield, maybe sign Brandon Nimmo, add to the rotation with a Carlos Rodon. Things could change very quickly for New York if they lose out on Aaron Judge. Alrighty, guys, I think I'm about ready to call it here. My voice is starting to get a little weaker anyway. Got to save it so I can go live with you guys if there is some news later on. But really appreciate all the support. I think welcome in, Scotty. Appreciate you for joining us. I think the Yankees are going to go after Nimmo if Judge leaves. I would certainly agree with that statement. I know that the Yankees are looking for pitching. What do you think of them getting Noah Syndergaard fitting at the Yankees? Because I think he'd be a great fit. I think he'd be a superstar with them. Well, Syndergaard was exposed a little bit in the postseason with the Phillies. For years, they've had speculation that Syndergaard would be a good fit with the Yankees. I just wonder how good of a fit. Remember, even with the New York Mets anyway, there's rumors that they could trade him there, or that last year when he was going to go to the Angels that he might sign there last offseason. But for me, I think Syndergaard is going to I think he's going to sign pretty much anywhere else outside of New York. I know they need starting pitching, but I'm just not sure Syndergaard is the guy they end up with. I think there's other options that they go with. Thank you, MVP. I really appreciate that. Welcome in, Aero. Appreciate you guys joining us. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Really appreciate all the subscribers we've gained tonight. And we'll be live for you guys if anything breaks at late night hours anyway. Hopefully we get some news on the Jameson Taillon deal. We'll go with a video anyway if that happens. Hopefully we get some Aaron Judge news hopefully in the next hour or two. If not, early morning hours, we'll post a live early on in the morning. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like the video. Really appreciate all the support. And MVP, it actually makes me excited to come here and chat. Yeah, I know a lot of the chats out there aren't as active as this one has been over the past week. We try to get as many of our subscribers to join us and chat and be a part of the community. So if you guys want to subscribe, don't be afraid to chat. I mean, we're not going to sit here and, do other things other chats do that are not necessarily conducive to a chat. I'll let you fill in the blank as to what those things are. But I like having an active chat with you guys. So feel free to ask any questions. Comment on our videos. If we're not live, I do get those comments. I see every single one of those comments that come in. So if I haven't responded to those comments, those are still ones I see every time I log into my YouTube. And I can check out your comment, ask your question if you have one. I will try to answer it for you in the comments, or maybe even answer it in a live the next time we go live. But feel free to comment, like those videos when you do see them. Make sure you subscribe. We'll go live with any type of big news from the winter meetings. We'll put out a short little video if something does happen out there. Keep you guys updated on your favorite team. But thank you guys for subscribing, making this so much fun. We crossed the 1,100 subscriber mark today. And thank you. I just saw we gained another one. Thank you for whoever just hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. We'll see you guys maybe later on tonight if there's some big news, but probably tomorrow morning. But you guys have a great evening. And for those of you guys wondering what the animation we were talking about earlier, I put it up here. I put it at the beginning of my video and the end. You guys tell me what you guys think of the animation. But you guys have a great evening. And hopefully we get some trade talk finally. Rule 5 draft tomorrow. So we'll get some news there as well. And y'all have a great evening.